I am sure sports. You know me there, I'm coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get your sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never seen a game, me not know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here so. For the day done, you are gonna love over your son.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crapper players. We are good enough. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Trick Nick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
Well, good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Just let me know if you can hear me well. Hey, Carey, how are you doing?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I don't have my headset. Somehow my headset disappeared. So if you hear any background noise, I try to not to drown out myself. But thanks for joining me, Carey.
Sure, anytime.
And those of you in the chat, I see Fresh God is here as usual. Hey, Fresh God, whatever job you're doing, I want to do it. Whatever it is that you're doing in life, I am going to say, maybe an envious person say, I want to do your job. And I see Duckland is here, and Duckland made a comment that Katarock wasn't at the Gold Cup. I think Carey can substantiate that he was there. And I expect Katarock to join us later, and also Nia to join us. But this evening discussion is mainly around to engage some of the fans who actually went to the game physically and in person, unlike many of us, including yours truly, who watched through some other medium and wasn't there in person to support the Reggae Boys. But before I jump into this, one is that Manning's man cannot be here this evening. As you can imagine, he was away for quite a bit of time from his family and from his other obligations, and therefore have to make sure he reacquaint himself with the environment that he actually lives in and operates in. So he can't join us, but I'm sure he's here in spirit, and I just spoke to him. And secondly, I want to touch upon a subject before we jump into the discussion with my guest. And I see Katarock. Is that you, Katarock? Because
I'm not a guest. I'm a panelist.
And
an
as
ultra
usual,
and a fan. Neo.
Neo is not here yet. This is not Neo. This is Carey.
Okay, the man. Carey the man. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and we're going to try to have some semblance of normalcy in today's program. Because you know when you go to school and there's always one bad kid in the class that gives trouble 24/7? That is the person whose camera is not on. So we're going to do our best to try to manage him, which is impossible. As I'm trying to manage him, but he's keep on speaking. And so, Carey, this is a normal interaction between me and Katarock because I try to keep order and he's disorderly. I want to touch upon one point, though, before I jump into the discussion that we are here to have this evening. And by the way, we try to set up this conversation at an optimum time because we don't know if you're in the US are probably just getting home from work or in transit. And those of you in Jamaica, if you're working 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, are probably on your way home. So you probably can turn on your mobile device and listen to what we're saying here. I want to touch upon one point. I was watching Sports Max recently, there was a discussion about the 400 meters, even though this is track and field, so Katarock, bear with me, I know how you get on this. And it was about rule of law and rules that you have in your organization. Now, Rashid McDonald pulled out of the semifinal of the 400 meters at the Jamaica trials and therefore lost his ability to be on the team to go to Budapest. The question that's been asked is, he just ran, 44.03. He has a record, I think it's 43.9. The question is, should you bend the rules to bring him in since he's the best third time this year? So I'd love for you in the chat to tell me, would you bend the rules to include a player at someone's expense? Or would you stick to the rules because the rules are the rules and should be adhered to? If you bend it one time, you may have to bend it tons of time. We're not here to talk about that this evening, but we'd love to get your perspective.
On a point of order.
Yes.
We're here to speak about football. You asked us to keep things in perspectives. Carey, good evening, sir. And yet you proceed to come on a football show with ultras and track and field.
So the point was about rules and adherence to rules. The track was only an analogy or an example of when we think about, do you bend rules or do you adhere to rules, which apply in any situation, including football, Katarock. So let's get into the football. So Carey, how are you doing? I don't think we have ever engaged before. Welcome.
Good. Thanks for the welcome. I'm happy to be here.
So part of the discussion we want to have this evening is around, there's been a lot of dialogue about the Jamaica football team, how the team did at the Gold Cup, and want to get it from a fan perspective who've had the opportunity to engage with the team, is my understanding, at the Gold Cup. So more importantly, what was your experience like in terms of challenges you may have encountered, pleasantries you may have gotten, how you got access to the players, what the camaraderie was like, what the engagement was like, what the atmosphere was like. Just give us your perspective. And then we get to from Katarock.
I wouldn't say much challenges in terms of the positives. You did get to interact with the players, both in terms of being at the training sessions and, just being around the team generally. So part of that was being a fake media member, because I'm actually supposed to be part of the media as well. So I went to the press conferences as well, and pretty much all the different things, the press box at the game itself. So enjoyable experience overall. Good to get a closer look at, because this is a new coach, obviously, so he has different ways of doing things, both in terms of training and overall team management. So good to get a close look at what was going on, and then obviously the games itself. Wish we had obviously won, because that was our overall goal. But I think we did well over to get to the season.
So let me ask one thing, please. If you're not speaking, please mute your mic, and I will do the same here, because I don't have a headset. AQ, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Katarock, same question for you.
Give me a minute. I'm logging into my laptop.
So you come in the program and you're not ready, but you have to challenge me on what I should be talking about. AQ, how are you doing? Did you hear the question, AQ?
Why are you even here, though? I saw AQ. No, but I'm sorry, Kronke. You are running here on your 2021 buddy pass from Orlando.
AQ, the same question for you. AQ, we'll get to Katarock. AQ, the same question for you. Your experiences at the Gold Cup when you were in attendance.
Okay, so went to a few games. It was pretty much a
somebody's background is really noisy.
It's AQ. He's looked like he's in transit.
Yes, unless you want me to call back shortly.
Yeah, maybe that'll be better, because we're getting a lot of feedback. Yeah, that'd be better, AQ. We're getting a lot of feedback. Thanks, appreciate it. But we want to hear your perspective. Thanks. Katarock, same question for you. Is Katarock gone also? Or did I get rid of him? Maybe it's a good thing. So it's you and I until AQ and Katarock come back. So you were saying that you got access to the players, and also you had what you call some kind of media access, I assume. We can't hear you, AQ. What am I missing?
I think I muted my mic when you said
Okay.
when you said to mute. So yeah, so I'm actually a part of Football in 90, which is a Instagram site that follows Jamaican football. So I had an accreditation through Football in 90 to go to the for the press part of it. So
Right.
that entitled me, I guess, to join the press conferences live. When the pre-match press conference, when the coach and one selected player are addressing the media, and then the post game as well. So that's how the media went along.
So Katarock, we had to plug the time until you return because you're not behaving yourself as usual. So tell us the same question for you in terms of your experiences or your experience at the Gold Cup. I think you went to the Chicago game. Not sure if you went to any other game because I heard you ran out of money. But anyway, keep going. I heard you went to the Chicago game. What was your experience like?
I'm an oligarch. There is no running out of nothing. And man like Carey sees man at game, so they can tell you that man was there. Good evening, fans and watchers and viewers and subscribers. If you're joining us for the first time, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember your manners. You can't come on Jamaican people yard and knock on the gate. So just knock on the like button and give the video a like. Where do I start? Manning's man said this is about a fan experience. So I want to start at the end and then start at the beginning. I promise I won't draw it out. So at the end of the Gold Cup, I am a proud Reggae Boys fan. I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of the individual players. Stan, I'm getting a feedback. It sounds like it's coming from you. The individual players, the coaching staff, and most importantly, I am really proud of the change in culture amongst our fan base. I hope that this is sustained and this continues into the Nations League and into the World Cup qualifiers. So overall picture is we reached the semifinals. We are one of the 4 best teams in CONCACAF. Our Reggae Boys, are the kings of the Caribbean, the kings of CFU. Put some respect on the name. Don't call up a name with Trinidad and Tobago. Don't call up a name with St. Kitts. We are the top dogs in this region. We will have a discussion at any other time about how we move from being a top 4 team to being consistently one of the top 2 teams, which would mean that we consistently reach the finals. So are there things that I would like to see different? Certainly. Are there things that changed between 2021's Gold Cup when you and I were in Orlando to now? Yes, and there have been a number of positive changes. There were a couple of niggling little things which really concern me about the logistics, and I heard my coach speaking about it, but it affects the fans, and I'll ask Carey and the sideways man who has just joined us.
That's Carlton. That's Carlton.
Okay, he's now on top. He seems to be in space, so he's just like floating. About how the logistics affected you as a fan. That's one of the things I'd want to discuss, particularly, for example, in Chicago, where I was robbed with the parking, as you $70 for parking, $50, things that really I hadn't experienced in Orlando, for example. When we went there, things were fairly reasonable and available to the fan base. So as I said at the end, and the next opportunity, I'll tell you a bit about the journey, about how it starts to be an ultra. What happens on the day. Carey, if you could tell me, how did you feel on the day when you heard the draw? How did you begin making your plans? And start from that journey, because being in the stadium, that is just halfway of the journey. We really have to, there's a lot of planning and a lot of sacrifice a lot of telling some lie to the wife and thing, you know, those goes in to, you know, and as you laughed at me the other day, as I said, when she checked the bank account and realized his savings part empty, and she pulled the plug on the trip, man just have to come back to yard. I missed the Las Vegas thing. So Carey, take us from the start, and Carlton, take us from the start of that journey when the draw was made, because we knew that Jamaica qualified and we qualified for Gold Cups regularly, but share that journey on the day of the draw.
I don't know if Carlton wants to jump in since I spoke.
Oh, sorry, yes, and Carlton as well. I'll relax for a minute. Carlton, you're muted.
No, as I was said, you say it all, Katarock, and when we joined, I always said we would qualify. So, and with Trinidad, I never worry about Trinidad and the rest of the team. But it's Panama. I didn't want to play, you know, because why I didn't want to play Panama, because we're gonna have Panama in the World Cup qualifier round. So we want to play them and get a feed at them to see where them is like more than I would prefer to play them more than play Mexico. But it was unfortunate that is Mexico we get, and with Mexico now have no use to us because Mexico not going to play against us in the World Cup qualifier. That's all I'm interested in. I'm glad the guys there go. They done well in the semi-final. So I don't have anything to say, but it's just I would prefer to play a team that we're gonna face in the World Cup qualifier more than team that like America and Mexico or Canada with them already qualified. So them don't playing them it don't make a difference to us, because playing against team that we're going to face would make a lot better for the team. As soon as these guys can gel together the real way, I see where they can go far. Because I was looking at some of the matching back over and see as time go by and so forth, they will done well. And I have confidence that they're going to do well. But was just some simple little changes I have to make too. And the judgment, I don't know if you guys agree, but you don't have to agree. The coach have to make some braver decision, because you have to make his mind and just drop some players and so forth. So all those things. But away from that, everything went well. I don't hear no cuss. Only one thing I hear that Gray was saying it was good to play with the Reggae Boys and him enjoy himself, and somebody come up and said, oh, why you don't come and waste the time with the Jamaican team, and I never liked that.
Sorry, Carlton, you're sounding quite low. The volume is low, Carlton. Repeat that about Damari Gray.
Yeah, said Damari Gray said it was nice enjoying playing with the Reggae Boys, and other guys can come forward, and somebody put up and said, oh, you're wasting the time coming and playing for the team, and I never liked that.
So here's a question for you, Carlton, and Bob Carey also. How many games did you attend?
No,
how many games did you attend?
No, I went to New York, and because I never have Katarock number, and it was calling Manny's man when I was in New York, because I flew from England. I was going to come straight, to go to Jamaica. So I go to New York. When I was in New York, I called in Manny's man, how I can get to reach. I never know no address, nothing at all. So when I'm in New York, so I just kill the time in New York and fly from Jamaica the next day.
Okay. Carey, how many games did you attend?
I went to the first four.
The first four?
Yeah, wow. First four.
Okay. No, that's excellent. So here's a question for both you and Katarock, who went to the games.
Hold on, Stan. I'd asked a question to Carey. I wonder if you could allow him to answer that. Carey, if you could take us from on that day when the draw was made, as a diehard fan, I'm the coward of the county, and I'm going to get to why I'm calling you the coward of the county. The day of the draw, what goes into the mind of a fan who is intent on following the team?
Well, I think it's just figuring out the geography, right? So the first game was in Chicago. The second game happened to be fairly close by because I actually didn't fly from Chicago to St. Louis. I actually took the train. Not a big fan of flying, surprisingly. So the train was a good option. It took I think 5 hours from Chicago to St. Louis, so that was good. That the first two games are fairly close together. Obviously, we're talking about finance and the games being so spread apart. The third game was very far away in California. So actually, in between the second game, Jamaica's second game, and our third game, I actually went to watch the Haiti game in Arizona, since it was kind of in the same direction. So some of my friends, Haitian friends, went, so I went to watch that game. And then obviously, once the group stage is much easier to plan because you know what's happening in terms of the schedule. Once you get past that, it gets a little bit tricky. Both in terms of the expense of the flights and hotels, because you're not booking it in advance, really, you're booking it with a few days notice, so that the prices are higher. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to see all three games if possible. It ended up where I was able to see the third game as well, and then the quarterfinals. So pity we didn't, win the semifinals, so that because I had planned to find a way to get to California again for the final, but it didn't work out that way.
Just a follow on to hear you. The day of the draw, we got United States. And let me pause on that, and I want to hear from Carlton and Kronke as well. When you heard that we were in the pot and the pool with the United States, Nicaragua, and the Twin Island Republic, but when you heard United States in that pot, what was the feeling that went through you? Can you share that moment, Carlton, Kronke?
Well, for me, it didn't matter much that it was the USA because I had planned to be at the game anyway. The fact that it was USA was sort of an added benefit. I went to the game when we beat USA in the semifinal to get to the final, and that was a great moment. Very few Jamaicans in the stands, and at that time we hadn't really beaten the US that many times, obviously, and we still don't really beat them, very often. So to beat them on their home soil to get to the final was great. So it was good that the first game was USA. It's always good to test yourself against the best. So that even though USA didn't bring their strongest team, it's still USA. So whenever we play USA or Mexico, which we happen to play both of them in this tournament, it's always kind of a pleasure to kind of test yourself against the best in the region.
So I'm gonna reposition the conversation because it's hard to manage.
Could you allow Carlton to answer the question, and could you answer?
I'm gonna Carlton.
Right.
1 second. Yeah. 1 second, Carlton. So we have a lot of guests in the show, and I want to be professional, but it's difficult to manage the situation with Katarock. Katarock, please, let's follow a strategy we employ as we normally do. Please, I'm begging you. Now, Carlton, please go ahead, sir.
Well, yeah. Well, for me, I did happy when we draw America, but when on the other hand, I is sad when I get to understand that United States wasn't sending their best team to play in the Gold Cup because they concentrate on the Nation League. So I was saying, well, any team is any team, but I did want them at full strength. That's they don't have no excuse when we beat them. Because people going to say, oh, see, you beat America, you play, but it's not the best team, America best team. So that's the only thing I'm never happy about. But away from that, I would prefer to draw Mexico or Canada, what going to come with their full strength team. I want to beat America, but I want to beat America when they have their best players and they feel as they don't have no excuse.
Okay. Andre, welcome. Glad to have you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kronke. I just making a quick guest appearance. I can't listen to the man when them disrespect Trinidad like that.
Yes, you mean a quick appearance like
man say him not bother. Man and say him not bother about Trinidad. That little disrespectful, man. We can't treat Trinidad like that.
You mean you're making a quick appearance like Trinidad made in the Gold Cup?
Yeah, that.
In and out. Okay. In and out.
So guys, Katarock, hold up. I control the button. Let me just repeat. I can remove and add who I so choose. And I'm going to do so if we don't get order in the court. And Katarock, if you open your mouth again, I'm going to take you.
You too. I could remove you too.
we might try to take
I remove Katarock because he doesn't understand how I operate in life. If he doesn't behave himself, I'm going to remove him. And I'm dead serious. Now, please go ahead, Andre.
So there can't be disrespecting Trinidad like that. And as the moderator, I want you to have them put a little respect on Trinidad name. We're in a down period. We understand that. Right? I am happy that Jamaica is heading in the direction they're heading in, and I just hope and pray that Trinidad will get their act together and join you soon. But in the meantime,
Andre, I'm gonna stop you, Andre. There is only one person in any of these panels and/or even fan who doesn't realize that we are all one, brothers and neighbors, and at different points in history, we're at different places in terms of the football and football community. So, Andre, we respect Trinidad. We support Trinidad. We understand you're going through a down period. And hopefully, Trinidad improves as time progresses. That's all I'll say on that.
Wonderful. And I appreciate that. But I'd listen because the conversation is all Jamaica today. So I'd listen from the outside, okay?
No. Look, we're talking about fans' experience at the Gold Cup, not just Jamaican fans. Because you went to the games in Charlotte.
Yes.
And one of the questions I want to ask the panel is that it's been very disappointing, at least from where I sit, even though I didn't attend the games, that we see Guatemala and Mexico and these countries with a myriad of fans in the stands at the Gold Cup supporting their team. Do you think that played any part in terms of Katarock? I am trying my best to entertain you, but your background nonverbal communication does not resonate well with the audience. So here's my point again, guys. Let me just say this, because I'm going to remove him if he doesn't behave. Do you think it affects the players in any way, shape, or form in terms of not having fans in the stands? Or do you think it didn't matter? Because, fans give you that momentum, fans give you that energy, fan engagement helps. What are your thoughts on that? I'll start with Carey first.
I might have a slightly different opinion because I think it does make a difference when you have, for example, the game that we played against Guatemala where the stadium was full of Guatemalans, or the game that Mexico plays against Panama where the stadium is full of Mexicans. It would be better for us to have a few more fans. For example, if we had one of the games in Orlando or on the East Coast, Miami or New York, we'd have had a better opportunity to get our fans there. But would it have made a huge difference if we had 1,000 fans compared to 200 fans that are allowed? Because the 200 fans or 300 fans or however many we had in Chicago made a difference because they were all together in two different little sections. And so they were visible to everyone, So I'm sure when you're a player on the field and you see that there is support for you there, it's going to make a bit of a difference. But I just don't know how much of a difference, for example, Chicago, this Gold Cup was from Orlando last Gold Cup, which was closer in terms of fans being able to get there. You'd have to ask the players that, but I would probably guess that it didn't make a huge difference.
Because when I was in Orlando 2 years ago, the fans connected well with the players. Even though it was a COVID period, they connected well. The players were very engaging. And I'm hearing the same thing this last Gold Cup. I have the same question for you, Andre. And Marlon, by the way, welcome. I have the same question for you, Andre. You're on mute, Andre.
Sorry about that. I agree that it is important, and I can tell you from personal experience, I attended 2 of the Trinidad games, and the fan support was limited. It was poor, quite frankly. And I think the second game I attended was the game in Charlotte, and just being around the players after the game, I can see that they felt really they were very, very despondent to the fact that they didn't have fans. Normally when fans go to those games, I know Katarock was talking about going to the hotel and mingling with the players and seeing how they didn't have that experience, at least in Charlotte. They might have had it a little bit in Florida, somewhat. And it, from the Caribbean perspective, not just Trinidad, I think we can do better. We talk about, if you take Jamaica, for example, per the US Census, there's about 998,000 people of Jamaican ancestry living in America.
Run it up to a million. Run it up to a million.
Right, we can run it up to a million because some people we know that. So and when you have a stadium that's holding 30,000 people, the gentleman just now spoke about 1,000 fans. It's really, that's a small number when you look at the Guatemalans and the Mexicans. When America play Mexico here, it's like Mexico is at home, right? The stadium is packed. They can put 90,000 people in a stadium. So it does affect the team performance, not just during that 90 or 94 minutes of the game. I think the players look around and know that, look, they're representing the country. They're representing the country, and it would really help performance if they can have support from the country at the field on the day of the game.
So I'm nervous, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to ask Katarock the same question.
I noticed you didn't answer the question that I asked you. And for the record, I am a co-host with you. And I can mute and remove as well. So I muted myself and listened to the people. Andre, first of all, when I heard United States, I went into rapture because I have been waiting to beat the United States on the United States soil. Wasn't looking to duck anybody. I also felt confident when I heard the United States team and the Mexican team announced, because I thought this was the best opportunity that we had to win the Gold Cup in recent memory. No, that being said, at some point down in the conversation, I would like to hear from the man them a really true come to Jesus moment about how we had teams that were considered less talented that made it to the finals and made it competitive in the finals. We weren't blown away in any of those finals. But it really was an experience. I think Chicago, I will never forget. Outside of the game in Washington, D.C. back in 1997 and the game at the Orange Bowl versus Brazil, it's really one that moved me as a fan. To see how 200 or less, beginning in the car park, and I don't know if, I know Carey was doing media and stuff. I didn't take no media accreditation, and we'll talk about it at another point in time. But the tailgate, from the tailgate right through, and I say this, Stan and Carey and Marlon. When I landed in Chicago, the flight was 6 hours delayed from New York, and I'm sorry that Carlton couldn't get to link me. Bushwick had a place in Brooklyn. Next time. So I left from New York. I traveled from Jamaica to New York and then from New York to Chicago. And when I got there, it was like 1 o'clock in the night because the flight was 6 hours delayed. So it would have been 7 p.m. landing. And I went to get the rental car, and I guess because at that time, you know, American fans were all there and everything, and the lady was telling me, boy, it's $200 a day for the car plus tax and tax. And I was there, you know, getting ready to make my payment. And I just heard what for me will be an unforgettable tone. Yow. And I looked around and I saw a guy at another counter way down like, yow. And you know, you give the Jamaican head nod for come. And when I forwarded to his desk, he said, I hope you not pay nothing over there for that, you know, but I give you a car for $50. Because you're Jamaican. All of you are Jamaican. And it really touched me. And it touched me because here in Jamaica, we war and fight so much with each other every day. But to see that as someone who didn't know you from the day you're born, but knew that we were Jamaican fans coming and tried to make it easier, that left a lasting impression on me. He never know Katarock. Him not watch the football team, and he came to the game, and he came in section 231. But those us fans in Chicago, along with our players on the field, we silenced the United States for at least about 45 minutes from the mid of the first half until they started getting back into the game, until they got to the second half. They were quiet. And Carey, you can confirm, there were absolutely no drums beating either from the American Outlaws at one end of the goal or Sam's Army. They were shell-shocked at what was happening on the field. Yep.
So here's the question, actually. So we have individuals who were not at the game, like Carlton and Marlon. We had yourself and Carey and also Andre, who went to games. I'm going to start with Andre first, and then I will talk to the rest of the Jamaicans. Did your team perform up to expectation? Andre, I'm going to go with you first, even though you had a difficult tournament.
Yeah, Trinidad did not perform up to expectation. Trinidad and Tobago didn't, for sure. I mean, that's when you look at prior years, the showing in Trinidad and Tobago football has been much better than it has been in recent times. So the answer to that is no. Is there a way forward? Yes, I think there's a way forward. Look, we got to look at football in the English-speaking Caribbean on the whole and understand that there's a lot of development to happen. I heard your conversation yesterday, and there was some talk about whether or not bringing in players, the best players from outside to play for the national team, who play the game outside, whether it will kill the league in Jamaica. CONCACAF just put out a ranking for the clubs, professional clubs in CONCACAF. And the first time a club shows up on that list from the English-speaking Caribbean was at 102, which was Mount Pleasant, right? All the other clubs is Mexico, it's America, it's Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, even Haiti is ahead of us. So there's a lot of Trinidad first team to show up was, I think, 3 spots later at 105 or something like that. So there's a lot of work to be done in the Caribbean. And speaking for Trinidad, I'm not one to blame that period of time that we with the virus recently with the pandemic, because that should have been handled properly. That was not a situation where sports should have stopped completely. But coming out of that period, there's a lot of work to do, and you can see that in the performances. The game against St. Vincent, St. Kitts and Nevis, it was what it was. St. Kitts and Nevis, who, by the way, performed, achieved their goals, right? Their goal was to make it to the Gold Cup. That was their goal. That was planned. They did make it to the group stage. They lost every game, but that was something that they can celebrate and build on, right? Because that's what they set as a goal. I'm not so sure what Trinidad goal was, what Trinidad and Tobago goal was, but to not do better than we did against the United States and against Jamaica, and I think anybody would agree that was poor, and we need to do better.
So I'll ask the same question to Marlon next, but I'll say this before I go to Marlon. I have decided that whether I'm hosting or not on a program, I refuse to entertain any discussion about foreign versus local going forward. I will either remove myself from that program or will not be conversing in that discussion. We've had a discussion for 2.5, 3 years now. It's old, it's archaic, it's dated. I am not having the conversation again. So I'm making that clear to everyone that I don't want to be rude or anything objectionable in my engagement, but I refuse to entertain any discussion in that place, that area going forward. Marlon, same question to you. Did your team perform up to expectation? And if not, I should expand upon that. What could we have done differently to get a better outcome or a different outcome?
Good evening to everyone on the panel, everybody in the chat.
Yeah.
I think me, you and Katarock and coach, we had this conversation. I had them going to the semi-final. So I think performance-wise, I think we could have been. So if we talk about accomplishment going to where I was looking for them to go, yes. But performances could have been better, right? As Cartel was saying about playing US best team, it shows you something. Because if we're playing that US team, that around 75% of them were playing together for the first time, right? And it shows you their strength and the level they are, right? Because they compete with us 50-50 straight through the game. And they had us on the second half, right? Plus, Mexico, this is Mexico A team, so nobody can say it's B team. They had same team players on the World Cup playing. And I don't know if Katarock remember. You remember we beat them 1-0 2017 in the semi-final. But guess what? They had like 11 players out of that. Players were in under 23. So these players they move up to the ranks now. The senior players, the Pineda, Alvarez, Montes, and all these guys. Gallardo. All these guys were in that in the 2017, the famous taxi free kick. So it shows you where these players have really grown over the past 6 years. Our players in this team, we still have Taxi there, right? Low, Blake, that's basically it. Out of our team that beat Mexico 1-0 in that thing. So I think performance basis we could have been much better, but at the same time, the team just came together. So we didn't have all the players in the camp in Austria. We all know the reason why. So position we finished. As I said, I have them reaching the semi-final, losing to Mexico. As Carter was saying, he wanted to play Panama. We see where Panama is, right? I said it before that Mexico was the best team there. Panama was second. We and US were basically fighting for third and fourth. And the two top teams that I said, they're the teams that went to the final. So we have a lot of improvement to do, but we have time to do it. But there's no honeymoon period because we gotta go into National League right now. We're going to a tough competition, so the coach have to get everything sorted out from right now.
Carlton, your view on that? You see? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, for me, the
Carlton,
team.
yeah. Ask Marlon a follow-up question. So, and yourself, you can answer it when it comes in, when you answer Kronke's question. So, would you say that the Reggae Boys, amongst the fans, I know there was some hysteria in the media about our squad, performed to expectation?
Yes, as I said, players could have done better, especially some of the marquee players. But as I said, with the new players coming in, great. Like he's been playing for Jamaica for the past 2 years, right? A lot of here came and played in a position he hasn't played for since his 17-year-old.
He has never played in that position,
right? So he played there and looked okay there. But as I said, the wing backs were totally okay. Still need improvement on the right side. The right side is still cause for concern. I don't know if we get a centre back and a right back and nail him down on that side. So if we're talking about performance, it's what I expected still.
Same question to you, Carlton, around expectations.
Well, for me, the team done well, but on paper, for me, my team, Jamaica team, should beat America with the players that America send. It shouldn't be fighting to draw, although we should, penalty, anyone can miss penalty, so I'm not going to crucify the guy to miss the penalty. Because Messi missed penalty, Ronaldo missed penalty, so I'm not going to crucify him. But away from that, the team, as Marlon said before, need improvement, and I still going to say Daniel Green should in that squad, and I'm not going to continue stop say that. But away from that, I have them to finish semi-final. But as I said, I did want to play Panama, did not want to play Mexico yet. And if I did play Panama and beat Panama, then I think most likely the team would come better and would beat Mexico, because we can beat Mexico, but we just have to go in and believe. The team have to believe in themselves, say they can beat his 11 player Mexico have, and we have 11, so we can go there and beat them. So, but away from that, the team, well, a lot of improvement need in the team, because to me, the team needs fighting spirit, because when they go 1-0 down, it seems like everyone give up. I don't know if you guys see the same. No fighting spirit wasn't there. You never have no leaders to take over and say, listen, come, we have to fight, you just one, we can get there. No, I never see that. Everybody head down, like they lose the match from the goal score. And that's what I never like about with the team. But away from that, they reach semifinals, so I'm not going to crucify them for that, and happy for that. Wish for me, if they did win, it would be a bonus for me. My main option is to see the team reach to the World Cup. That's why it's not time for room for to say, oh, we need young players. And no, we don't need that. No, I need, as Marino, their coach, I need ready-made player to go and qualify for the World Cup. 2030, we can look for young player and to develop. No, it's not the time for develop, and no, it's not the time to do experiment. No is the time to get result. We're dealing with result now, not no experiment or whatsoever. Oh, this should be or that should be. We need result. No is the time we need result. I don't have to win the Nation League, as I say, no, but I want to reach the World Cup. From 98, we're improving, and still improving. I don't want to hear that.
So, Carlton, and I just interject here just before Carey answers that question. Now, I'm going to make a proviso here. Stan, you may have come off the program. I joined you in exiting the program yesterday in protest at the caller who came on and made a very disparaging comment, name to refer to my players. And I too will no longer participate where xenophobia and, quite frankly, what I call, in my own words, hate speech is present. I'm not. I can chill out to myself and talk to my brethren them in a bar. But I wanted to ask Carlton something. That isn't this precisely the time that we should be experimenting 3 years from the World Cup, and not as we were in the last cycle where we were experimenting even after we had been knocked out? That's number one. And to Carey, for those of us who are in the stadium, can you answer Carlton about the fighting spirit and the camaraderie and the team, those players on the bench really getting behind and cheering on those who are on the field and encouraging them? Did you see that as I saw it, or did you see a lack of fighting spirit? Again, I wasn't in Las Vegas. Carey?
All right. Okay.
No, I was asking Carey, Carlton, and then you
okay.
Yeah, I wasn't in Las Vegas either. That's the one game that I didn't go to. I didn't sense, obviously I'm just watching it on TV. So whether the issue was a lack of fighting spirit or the issue was more coming up against a team that had more quality and was pressing us higher up the pitch and us not being able to get out, which is what I thought happened. So I would say it was more, I was probably more that than fighting spirit. But again, that's just going to be down to each person's perception when they're watching the game, I suppose.
And I want to ask you, because you went to one additional game that I didn't go to, right? I saw a jaded team in the semifinals. And I look at myself who was just there as a fan, traveling the same distances and stuff. And by the time I came back to the East Coast, I was a wreck. Now, how much of what we saw in Las Vegas would you attribute to the absolutely crazy scheduling of flying teams from East Coast to West Coast across 3 time zones, with 1 day of preparation in between? Because when we played the Sunday, we traveled the Monday, which means that was out totally, and then only train on the Tuesday and the game on the Wednesday. How much of that you thought played a part in what we saw, rather than lack of fighting spirit or Mexico just better than us? And I'd pose that to you first, Carey, and then the other people there, Marlon, Andre can comment as well, Kronke, etc.
I think it's a little bit of everything, right? So the traveling definitely is not easy, especially when you're going from the Midwest to the West Coast. That's not an easy trip. We did have a bit of time in between when we finished the group stage to that first game in the knockout, but then obviously we played from Sunday to Wednesday once we got to the semifinal. So that is not easy. Traveling, pretty much getting a training session in and then playing a game with all the recovery that you have to do, in between. So I know it probably was not equitable either in terms of the teams, because some of the teams had less traveling to do than others. So that's probably a discussion for another time. That plays a factor. But I think you have to just, like the coach is kind of always saying, kind of roll with the punches. But it definitely has a role to play. The traveling has a role to play. Being able to recover, has a role to play. Playing a better team than we played, I think, in any of the first 4 games once we got to Mexico. That has a role to play, because I don't think any of the other teams pose the same challenges tactically to us that Mexico did in that semifinal. And so I think, how much of it was just being shaken by a bad start and a team that's better than the ones that we've been playing. How much of it is jet lag? How much of it is lack of fighting spirit? I think it's going to be difficult to give percentages to each one, but all of them have a role to play, I think.
Marlon and Andre Kronke.
I think from what I saw, I wouldn't say lack of fighting spirit. I think they got shell shocked by the early goal. Right? Because my concern was throughout the tournament, how do you react to going down a goal? And I think being in an attacking part of the field, and they got the counter again, and it happened to us twice in the Jordan game. I think that's something they definitely have to work on from a defensive standpoint, organization standpoint there on the field. So I want to say not lack of fight. Sometimes it's really hard to, when you go out on the field as a player and you go there and team go to play a certain way and you get an early goal. So you have to definitely change your style of playing, the game plan you went out there with. Or you're going to be composed and try to work with the team strategy. So I think they're more shell-shocked than anything than say the fighting spirit. We saw a better fight in the second half. When they came back out, you could see at least they were trying to do the basic stuff. But the Mexican, as I said, they came out to play, and we didn't react to them.
So I was very critical, holistically, of a number of different things, which I don't want to go into in this program, including the coach and the decision making. Carlton alluded to the coach need to be braver in his decision making. I didn't think he was brave at all. I think he pandered to the general populace in making decisions about his team and changes. And secondly, if you look at the games we played against Mexico and the US, I think it showed the difference between those teams and our team. We went into the tournament with the perspective that we have all these players with this pedigree, and I expected us to at least make the final or win the tournament, given the players with the pedigree, even though we all agreed that the midfield needed some more creativity and players with some enhanced pedigree in that midfield. But I thought that we had enough to do better than we did. Now, I know everyone talked, I didn't see any lack of fighting spirit. To the contrary. I thought every player tried to play to their maximum. I thought some players just didn't play well, and I was disappointed they played. And I made this point 1,001 times, and I'll stop there saying, if I have 4 Premier League players, a number of whom have started for their team or regulars in their team, and they only score in 1 game, that to me is the main reason why you may not have progress in the tournament. Because it's 4 people, it's not 1 or 2, all Premier League level. And if you look at those 4 players versus any other top 4 in any team in this tournament, one would pick those 4 as being better than any other team. Now, you need 11 players to play. We have an exceptional goalkeeper. Our defense was okay. Our midfield needed work. So I was very disappointed in the front 4 and the ultimate production. I know Gray made team at the tournament, but you can't have front 4 playing in 5 games and scoring in 1 game. And it wasn't the most toughest game. So when you play Guatemala and the US and Mexico, when you need your best players to take charge and put the opposition under pressure, and that doesn't occur, to me, that's concerning. And one of my view is that I need to see competition for places. Because when you're a very good player in a team and you don't have competition, you get complacent. So if you can change that complacency and people fighting for their game, it's a different story. So I don't want to dominate the conversation about this, but that's my view in terms of how we perform. I was disappointed with the semifinal because I got in saying we have enough quality in our team to make the final or even win the tournament. That was my perspective. One thing I want to ask Carey, actually, because Carey went to 4 games, and frankly, Carey, I would have gone to games because I don't like to fly just like you, by the way. I hate flying. Even though I fly a lot, I detest flying, and only if I must have to fly for job purposes, I fly. Otherwise, I don't. I'm in Atlanta now, and I drove down here, and I hate driving 12 hours. But anyway, I was disappointed that the games weren't in one location like it was in Orlando, but I'm told that's never going to be the case going forward. So from where you sat in the stands and observing the players and engagement, I want to make sure we clear this up. Did you see any lack of fight in the players?
I wouldn't say that, no. In any of the games, really, because I suppose the game that most people will be thinking about, the lack of fight, would be the game that we lost, right? So the game against Mexico. I didn't see that myself, so I didn't sense it either. I thought it was more the other factors. I thought it was the fact that the shock, like Marlon said, of conceding an early goal. I thought it was the fact that Mexico was the best team that we played and posed us a lot of challenges that we didn't face in the other games. So I thought there was more that than a lack of fight. And just so you know, I'm going to jump off in a couple of minutes. Like I told Manis, when I have a game to go to, so I'm going to jump off. So when you don't see me, I'm gone.
Okay, appreciate
I have
it.
a quick question for you, Carey.
Sure.
Where are you based in the United States?
Florida, Miami.
In Florida, Miami. Okay. Cool. Andre, did you take the Reggae Boys? But if Carey has to jump off, Kronke, Andre, I do want to hear whether, as a Caribbean person who needs a good team to cheer for, if the Reggae Boys met your expectations. You have said publicly that the Reggae Boys is your second team. I would ask you if we met your expectations.
Okay, I'll try to contribute to that. But let me first ask Carey. Carey, are you in the trophy selling business? Do you sell trophies?
So there's a number of ways you can have trophies. Either you win them or you buy them. If you don't have a talent to win them, or as a player or a coach, you can just buy them and have them in the background. So that works as well.
I understand.
Thank you for advising.
Well, Carey, you still didn't answer the question, though, Carey. Didn't I say whether you won them?
No.
I assume you won them or your team won them.
That's an assumption. I could have bought them.
He's advising our friend from Trinidad as to how Trinidad can fill up their trophy cabinet.
Hey, Carey, I understand, buddy. So I understand. Anyhow, look, I don't know. At the end of the day, the schedule was out, and the staff knew the schedule. Jamaica played on the 24th. They played 4 days later on the 28th. 4 days later on the 2nd against St. Kitts. And then there was a 7-day gap. After the Trinidad game, I think there was a 7 days gap before they played St. Kitts. Then there was they played
No. That's not correct. That's not correct.
Between how many days between the 2nd and the 9th?
No, man. The 7-day gap came between the
third game,
final game, group stage, and the quarterfinals.
Right. Okay. Right. So the least amount of time was between the semifinal and the Guatemala game. Right. Look, the schedule is out, and part of the job, part of the responsibility of any coach or coaching staff is to manage what they would call a performance environment. That includes when you're in tournament football, being able to understand the weather conditions, understand the time between games, understand the travel, and yes, the travel is a lot. So I don't know that we should be suggesting, yes, some teams had it better, and that's something that we can look at in terms of who represents us at the table in CONCACAF. But those, even in league play, you're watching the EPL, there are times when teams have to play games in a shorter space of time. That's part of the curveball that they show you in order to become champions. So when I looked at the Jamaica games, and I did not see in that semifinal. I don't know that the team was tired. What I've said on that night of the game when we did it with Kronke, and I will continue to say now, the team didn't play the game at the intensity to match the Mexican intensity. The Mexican team had more intensity, hence the reason they scored 2 goals in the first half, and I think it's inside of 20 minutes. And you could have seen in the second half, after Jamaica went in and come back out, they were getting closer to the Mexicans. They make the game more difficult, and it's just laid down in the game that it went to 3-0, right? For majority of the second half played at 0-0. So what management spoke yesterday about when they train on that day, I think it was in the middle of the day, how hot it was after the long travel from the previous game. And that could affect the team. But at the end of the day, these are professional players, right? These are professional players. They have a professional coach, a huge staff, and the job is to get the players ready to play. And there's no reason for me or anybody to think that the coach didn't do his best in that regard. If the players didn't respond, then it's on the players at the end of the day.
Okay. One more question. Seem like me have a different way I look at things like from you guys, because when I say fighting spirit, did you know that this Jamaican team that could take 3-0 from Mexico was a better team that better than the team that draw with Mexico in Mexico 2-2?
Is that to me?
No, to everybody.
Okay.
So can I jump on that one? Actually, I think I hear that narrative. I don't buy that narrative. The team in Mexico had Pinnock, didn't it? Team in Mexico probably did it have Ravel in the team? There are different persons in that team that add different elements to that team that differentiated from this team that played. This team, and I was going to ask the question of everyone, which is this. I'm going to ask you a question, Carlton, and then talk to everyone about this question, which is, if you were the coach going forward, what is it that you need to do, enhance, bring in to get this team to where it needs to get to, which is to be on par and have parity with Mexico, the US, Panama, Costa Rica, Canada, right? Because those are the main competition. Even though those three of the main ones will not be in the next World Cup. But to answer your question, Carlton, I don't think this was a better team. I think it was a little bit of a different team.
So
okay,
Carlton, let me challenge Kronke and go into an even more controversial area. So, why is my mic unmuting? Let me challenge Kronke and go into an even more controversial area, but I'm going to say this as a prerequisite. I come on these forums. I am myself. No man can program me. So some man can just stop call up my name in a chat, right? Because I will not change. Manchester United and Manchester City are neighbors. The Theatre of Dreams is very close to the whatever.
I was going to get to that, you know.
Hold on. And Manchester United fans do not like Manchester City or wish them any well. So I will partake in Trinidad, but I'm not wishing them any well in football. And I don't like their team because I love my team and they are my local Caribbean rivals. So, man, get that through. Kronke, though, I want to say to you, yeah, man, anybody can say anything, brother. Anybody can say anything until you see me in person. And man knows what I look like in person. So, Kronke, I wanted to challenge you. I know you mentioned about Ravel and Pinnock being in the Mexico squad. And that squad really taking Mexico to the sword and pinning them back, going ahead twice. But I also want to put to you this question, to Marlon, Carlton, Andre, who I know watches Jamaica, and we understand what fan bantering is if someone understand. The 2-1 game in Mexico City in 2021, in a team which included Andre Blake, Damian Lowe, I think Kemar Lawrence, yes, Shamar Nicholson. I had about 4. Javane Brown was on that team. 5 of those players were there, along with the name that everybody hates to hear, Anthony Grant. And yet that team held out. We took the lead. Mexico came back, and then in the 80-something minute, they scored. So I want you to juxtapose that against that game in much more difficult circumstances. And again, refine whether it is that the schedule where Mexico was exclusively on the West Coast. They didn't come out of any time zone versus the teams that had to do so. But look against those 2 games and see, because I know we spoke about Mexico, what the personnel changes was, or whether it was the environment. And then, Kronke, you can take a little bit of the hosting link. I know you have some questions.
That question was for me?
No, to all the man them.
So I think what Carlton was talking about was the 2-2 tie we had in Mexico, right, Carlton?
I know you spoke about that, but I asked you to look at the game that we played in Mexico in 2021 during COVID, when we had a much depleted squad without our stars from England, and we held up to the 88th minute 1-1, and then lost in the 88th minute. To look at those games against Mexico versus this game where you said we had a star-studded team as best as we have ever had.
Right, so it probably goes to Carlton could then say I made my point, whereby that team that played in 2021 with lesser talent had fighting spirit. I will say this, it's 3 different games. The 2021 game, we got battered and we got lucky. Yes, Grant played a really good game, and Grant got fouled maybe 5 or 6 times in the game to slow down, stop the game. But they missed chances. Jimenez missed open goal, chances after chances after chances. In the 2-2 game, we were much more competitive, and we went ahead twice and probably should have come up with a tie or have won that game with a team that was more comparable to this team and had Pinnock in there and had a more creative midfielder in that team. This team is loaded up front with less recognition in the defense and the midfield. I thought the defense and the midfield held up their bargain. I didn't think the top 4 players did. So there's 3 different teams, not necessarily in personnel. This is how we perform in those 3 games. And I thought this team produced less than those 2 teams, even though the 2021 team had lesser talent. That's my perspective on that. Not sure what Marlon is or what Carlton is. Or even Andre.
What I would say, Kronke, and to rest of Marlon and the rest of guys, them. This team, what I said when I say fighting spirit, I don't see no one there with fighting spirit, because you're supposed to have a leader. When something like that happen, if the coach send out there and something not going right, a man on the field, the captain supposed to can say, guys, this not working where coach tell we though. We're gonna make a decision for ourselves. That's why Roy Keane, I was watching Manchester United and Man City, and then after I said to Roy Keane said, listen, no fighting spirit in the Manchester United team. Because everybody just playing, they're just running up and down playing football. Nobody in charge. You don't know who is the captain to take. Roy Keane said when Sir Alex Ferguson tell him something, and if it's not working, him stand up to him, play them and say, listen, this is not working what the coach do, I will take the blame. So we're going to do it this way. So him say sometimes you have to have players, or they can take that responsibility when you use a captain, And the player for take notice. When you said, I don't know what Ono might look and fighting spirit different from me, but when you look at it, when you're down one, when Mexico down the other day to us in Mexico, they could give up same way, and lose the game. But what they do, they keep fighting until they come back and get something from the game. USA could give up the other day when they was almost 2-0 down, and they still fighting and come back. We don't see that in Jamaica team.
So sometimes, Carlton, I think we confuse. What we don't give credit for is this: when we're assessing these teams. Roy Keane can say that he played in a brilliant Man U team throughout his entire career. When you have talent differential, you can try to find a way to motivate those players because they have the ability. The Man U team versus the Man City team are night and day. So it's not they could fight all they want to, they're still gonna lose.
Yeah.
When you have such big talent differential, no matter how much fighting spirit you have, if both teams are at the same level fighting spirit-wise, then the better team is going to win. Correct? Carlton, that's for you.
Yeah, I'm listening.
I'm saying if both teams are at the same level, if both teams fighting spirit-wise are at the same level, I'm just better than you technically in all aspects of the game. Wouldn't you expect me to win, like a Man City versus Man U? I don't think Man U. Roy Keane says a lot of things. Right, but Roy Keane played in a brilliant Man United team that was dominating at that time. So he can make these comments, and he's giving credibility, and he's giving respect. But sometimes Roy Keane is wrong. Roy Keane is wrong.
Yeah, but Kronke, we're going to look at you and say now, if Anthony Martial did play in that match, it would be a total different game, because man, you would never have no one up there to hold the ball and take on the Manchester City defense. You take notice, that guy Martial was sick when they beat Manchester City 2-1 in the league. The coach know him sick, but the coach said Martial can do it. So what he do? He put him out there to hold the ball up as a player, and that's it. Other guys can come up, and he done that and he win. But Martial was totally sick. So from he see that the coach realized, said he don't have a chance because I don't have no one up there to hold the ball, because earlier some of them just going to kick and run. Rashford, they're going to run that type of player to hold the ball. Just like what you said earlier on, we need a midfielder who can hold the ball, like you have a Casemiro. We need one of those type of players in Jamaica team who can hold the ball and look up and find passes to give guys. We don't have that in the Jamaica team.
So, Carlton, I want to close out that piece of the Man City Man U analogy because I want to get back to the Jamaica team. But I'll say this to you. The reason why Man U beat Man City in the second game, after they got 7 in the first game, because the coach played a box-on-1 on De Bruyne. The coach used Fred to mark De Bruyne out the game and cut off the supply line for Man City. Go back and watch that game. That means the coach was being strategic, and the coach made a difference. And to go back to your point earlier, which is, does my coach create a situation in his team where he can be the differentiator between winning and losing, even if my team may not have the same capability as the opposition? That's why you hear me talk about this coach and some of the decision-making and my frustration with him. I don't want to digress into the Man City Man U. We're focused on Jamaica and Trinidad, because Andre is here. It works in Jamaica and Caribbean football. But I'm saying these analogies that you mentioned, they're relevant analogies, but sometimes we have to look a little bit deeper as to why you make it a different outcome when you even have lesser talent. I go to Katarock now because Katarock has been silent for a while. I get nervous when Katarock is silent, even though I get frustrated when he speaks. Katarock, the floor is yours.
No, yes, you get silent when I speak because I'm reading some of the comments in there, and man, wonderful. So there's something I want to raise earlier. The Gunners boss raised. Let me say this: the USA versus Jamaica match in Chicago. Everything in the city of Chicago made me understand why it was the mafia city. Everything was raised. And I think they took the fans, both the US and the Jamaican fans, to the cleaners for that day. Parking, just everything in general just seemed to just be astronomical versus what we saw on the when you went online and tried to do some bookings for certain things. So yes, and let me be clear, the $200 they were trying to rent me was one Honda CRV for $200. That is as bad as it got because there's a thing called supply and demand, and many of the counters were rented out. They were just out of the regular vehicles. And I still say that my point was, in case you missed it, Gunners boss, is that everywhere there's a Jamaican, we can look out for each other. And that's my fundamental point. And I want to big up, and I'm going to call him name in case him boss or watch or call the company, but big up the man that made life easier for me and more affordable and nice. It was almost a Rolls Royce because my boy gave me some upgrades to upgrades. But as you were saying, Stan, we do have to have a really come to Jesus discussion about whether it is that the teams in CONCACAF are improving as well as we are improving. But we really have to discuss why teams who had demonstratively lesser talented players were able to hold their own and have result. And if what was used there was heart versus trying to match people up mano a mano. And I think, yes, we were lucky in the Mexico game, but sometimes you make your own luck. And Shamar Nicholson scoring first in the Azteca made our luck because it gave us a cushion to sort of hold back on, to know that Mexico had to score 2 to win, and we were the victim of some very bizarre a coaching decision that had 4 right backs on the field in the last 2 minutes of the game and taking off Anthony Grant for an attacking midfielder. So it's not only Coach Hallgrimson that has made changes that we query. And then I think I asked the other day for us to really look back, and I'm not going to comment on it. I am going to look back at those 2 games that we reached the finals. I was there, but you know the thing going under the water. We reached the finals, and we didn't have 4 Premier League players, nor 1 incoming Premier League players, or an academy player from a Premier League team. So we do have to ask those hard questions. However, I'm putting it in the perspective that I am not fooled, even though I might get crazy and hype because it's my team and that's what I want to do. We are not one of the 2 best teams in CONCACAF. We aren't. That is just the plain facts. This for me is a work in progress. There are pieces that need to be added to this team. But Carlton, why I am happy, Marlon, why I am happy, Andre, why I am happy and optimistic, is that those pieces exist. And for me, Carlton, you have a work for the brother. You call one name the other day. We're going to talk about it. So you talk to a man. For us, I don't know, Kronke, you have said this. how do we recruit the best talent that's available to fill the weaknesses in our team? And what frustrates me is that, for example, there are at least 24 right backs between the Premier League and the Championship who are eligible to represent Jamaica. And you cannot tell me that all 24 men are sitting down waiting on England to call them up. Something has to change in that. And Marlon, I can hear from you, and then Kronke.
No. I want to reposition the Katarock.
Okay,
I want to reposition the Katarock, which is Andre. Since we're now, I'm gonna put on my best Katarock.
Right.
Since we're now your adopted team, and your team maybe not be making the progress that it needs to.
Right.
If you were the coach for the Jamaica national team, what is it that you would do to get us to be able to compete on an even keel with the best teams in CONCACAF?
So as Katarock was talking, you know, and even yesterday as I listened to the conversation, since the semi-final game, there's an undercurrent of the conversation as in terms of nobody has come out and clearly blame the coach for the results, right? There's some suggestion that the coach should have done better. But the funny thing about discussing football is that as people on the outside, we never know what the intention was. We never know what the issues were or are in any moment. So we are always talking with less information than the coach would be working with, right? Look, the coach responsibility, one of his responsibility in game day, he has to be able to influence the team. So if things aren't going right, the part of the responsibility of any coach is to have the ability to influence the game by making adjustments, making changes, changing strategy, a number of different ways. Sometimes you're coaching games and you may move a winger from out wide, switch him with your striker, and boom, the winger scores from the striker position. And that might be a result of something you saw, maybe a difference in pace or whatever the case may be. I think Jamaica football is heading in the right direction. If Trinidad at this moment has gotten to where Jamaica got to, I would have been happy. If the game against Jamaica was closer, or the game against America was closer, that's something to feel good about. You know, you're making progress. So as far as Jamaican football is concerned, I think it seems to be heading in the right direction. There can be some conversations. Well, the coach had 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever to prepare. The fact of the matter is, for the tournament coming up, he's probably going to have 4 days, right? So whatever problems is identified, when the players come together, it's going to be for a very short period of time, and he's got to get them to perform. I guess the question I have is, does anybody know what is Jamaica intent in possession and out of possession as a team? What it is they're trying to do when they have the football? What is the game model? What is the style of play? Does anybody have an answer to that?
I don't have an answer. I can't tell. You and I watch the games live. You and I watch the games and comment on the games. I can't tell.
Well, and I think
I don't even know what formation we were playing. I don't know what formation we were playing.
I wanted to hear Marlon answer that question.
Marlon, say something, Marlon.
Marlon, I want to preface what you say with this. Marlon is very knowledgeable about the teams in CONCACAF, as much as anyone I've heard speak about them, about the players in those teams, the quality of those players. So Marlon, you're the coach. Tell me what you would do. Thanks, Andre.
No, but my assessment, I think the coach definitely have to go away this 4-4-2 formation not gonna work or the 4-2-4, it's not gonna work. It's gonna come a point of time one of those players have to go on the bench. Either Bobby Reid or Gray, and I don't see Gray go on the bench. So between Bobby Reid and Bailey, he have to make that strong decision. One of them got to go sit on the bench. Need a ball handler, because he's a person, the coach is a person who would like to have a box-to-box midfielder. Person who's good in attacking and good in defense. He doesn't have that player, so that's why I try to play with two defensive players. But what I've assessed what he has done, because he have the top four, the front four, He tried to use those players to win the ball and get it to them. But if you look at the formation of his suit, the Jamaica national team right now, I don't see us playing 4-3-3 at the moment. We don't have the players to really do that. I think 4-2-3-1 double pivot there with a box to box, a CDM, a number 10, a ball handler in the middle, so you can have your Ravel, your Daniel Johnson, or if we get anybody new to come in there, right? Because I said it to a couple of persons, we miss Ravel out of his team. A 50% Ravel, having two persons who can win the ball and give it to him in an attacking role, somebody who's comfortable with the ball, and we didn't have that player. We didn't have that player in this team, and I think we saw it, the warning sign was there from the Guatemala game, and the coach himself, he said it. He said if we come out this way against Mexico like how we did against Guatemala, we're gonna be in problem, right? The good thing about it, Guatemala didn't score. I remember they got an early chance on us, the ball at low loss. So I think the formation part and the system and how the team function, he need to get that sorted out, and he have to make the hard decision whether he's gonna use Demari Gray in the attacking role, right, and shift Bailey, because out of the front four, he's the one who can play the position and play it, because he has played in the Premier League. So if you look at where we are in CONCACAF right now, right, we're gonna take USA and Mexico and Canada out of it, right? I think we need to aim to be where Panama and Costa Rica is. Yes, we might have. I think Costa Rica, though they're training out the old guard now, but I think we and them might be on the same part. Because I was checking out for the qualifying run for next year. If we're not in the top 6 by November, right? Because the top 6 team, first 3 will from what? From 4 to 6. They basically will not face each other. So that's something we have to aim for, to be in the top 9. I think we're basically about the top 6 is a must. So you won't face Costa Rica, you won't face Panama, you avoid Haiti for the time being, right? So I think that's something he needs to work on. As Carlton said, he has less time. When the team get together for that game in September. But there's a lot of pieces we still need to improve on. As we said, attacking midfield. And first, I've been talking about Louis Baker. If Louis Baker comes, he walks into the team. He has the ability to do what the coach want him to do.
But as you say, Louis Baker, I think we should just pause and I'm going to welcome AQ, section 2311 them. Daniel Johnson, 2-year contract at Stoke City. So before you score a goal for Stoke City, before you make a pass for Stoke City, your number one job, Daniel Johnson, is to make Louis Baker get a passport. Not listen what the coach has said. Listen, Katarock. That's your number one job. Remember yesterday I was begging and saying I would do anything to have those 2 players. Jah has answered my prayers and sent Daniel Johnson there. Daniel, do a job. AQ, what say you? On from a fan perspective, how many games did you go to? What was it like being a fan in the stand? I know you were in a noisy background earlier, but kick it away.
Yeah, so went to 3 games, Chicago, and the 2 knockout games, Guatemala. You can hear me?
Yes, you can hear
you. You can hear me well?
Yes.
All right, yeah. So it was Guatemala and then the loss to Mexico. I didn't make it to the Trinidad or the St. Kitts game. As far as the football, it was great, but I've complained about this before, so I'm sure we were spoken about this with management on the show before, that we don't really have a football culture. So as far as the fans are concerned, very few. I posted some videos. We was in Cincinnati, and it was, if there were 50 of us, it was a lot. We park up in the parking lot and was playing some music and doing some tailgating, and every 2 seconds you see Guatemalans. The place was packed. Guatemalans. They come, and so I stopped a few of them and asked them. They're coming from Tennessee. They're coming from everywhere. As a matter of fact, the tickets them before Guatemala win was cheap. And as soon as Guatemala beat Guadeloupe, skyrocket. The tickets them was 400 odd minimum. That was the cheapest. 350 was the cheapest ticket you'd find for the Cincinnati game. So that was a disappointment that we don't really have fans that are coming out to watch the game. And it's not because it's far away. You know what I mean? Because even the 2015 final against Philly, we had more. But when you look at how close we were to New York City, to the tri-state area, we should have really had a much bigger showing when we went to the final in Philly. When you looked at the stadium, it looked like it was some grains of rice. Or some, very few relative to the Mexicans that were in the Philly Stadium. So from a fan perspective, it was a little bit disappointment not to have more Jamaicans in there. And the few that were there, quite a few of them weren't in their colors. You see a few people in the stands walking past them, and they have on beige or brown or even blue. So from that perspective, we're lacking as well. So that was disappointing. But the fellas went out there and tried. I thought the tournament was a success. We would like to go to the finals or win. But, as Kronke said earlier, which I really, really agree with him with, is as far as the positioning, we're really... the only difference I think between us and Panama is your two center midfielders, Gadara and Carey here. Guys up front I think are better, but our guys in the middle, nobody dare to say this because it's really damning, but they don't even want the ball. They're excellent at winning the ball, excellent at tackling and winning the ball upfield, but there are times if you really pay attention where, let me not call out any of the names, but you'd see one make a run from beside the forward, and he would run 2 yards to the next side, but he wouldn't go far enough to get the ball because they don't really want the ball. They don't really want the ball. They can't turn, and you have to be able to go up the middle. Or when the grade gets it and give it to you, to play 1-2 and then go the next side. Without that, you can't really penetrate the defense. You have to be able to go up the middle. It's a must. That's the only Carey got the MVP. And him and Gadara was the difference with why they look better in Jamaica. You have to have that in order to play. Because no matter what system, no matter what brand of football you play, no matter all those other things that we talk about, have the best coach in the world and don't have two guys in the middle or a guy in the middle that could play the ball and connect the dot, you're not going to look good.
So AQ, I'm going to follow up that. The question is for you. So Marlon just answered the question. And Marlon talked about the need to have creativity in the middle of the park, and that one of the front four will have to sit on the bench. What's your view on that if you were the coach?
We're using Bobby Reed. Bobby Reed is in the front four?
Yes.
So it's Bobby Reed on the top three. Funny enough, I don't, before I answer that, right? When we say front four, I'm a bit confused because when they line up, you see Leon right beside the forward, as like a withdrawn forward, right? But then if you watch really during the game, it's really three up front and Bobby's a little bit behind them.
My understanding, AQ, my understanding was Bobby was supposed to play the 10. It's my understanding he was supposed to play the 10. That's what I was told. But he ended up on the wing, helping out his right back.
Because that's where you watch him in England. Sometimes he play right back or right midfield, right wing. He doesn't really where does he play the 10? So if you play the 7 or the 11 or wing back, the 2 all your life or all your professional life, I think the number 10 is a very special position. So just get up and go and say you're going to play the number 10 when you're a winger. It's not really an easy thing to do. I wouldn't expect him to really do that with much efficiency. Because that's a very, I think it's the hardest position to play in the game.
So
the number 10 position. So to ask him to do that, yeah.
Before you say that,
Andre. Sorry, Bobby Reed does play the number 10 for Fulham, or has played it on a number of occasions, although he is a utility player.
But the other thing I would put on the table, and I would love to see where Stoke City plays Daniel Johnson. And I wasn't saying it wasn't in the pipeline. I'm saying it was signed off and he said goodbye yesterday. Daniel Johnson plays attacking midfield for Preston North End for much of his time there. That's the position that he's in. However, when he comes to play for Jamaica, he's used as a box-to-box or a deep-lying playmaker. Do you think that any of those adjustments could be made with the personnel we have? And for me, I would like to see whether we have a friendly game, what Casey Palmer would look like in that number 10 position.
The only player I've really seen that I think has the ability of the number 10 is Ravel. Even if Daniel Johnson plays that position, when I look at his skill set, in my opinion, I don't think he's a number 10. He holds the ball better than the two center midfielders that we have. But when you look at the skill set that he has, I don't see him as a number 10. Box to box, I guess. But he's not, I haven't seen him break down the defenses and make those passes that I would expect of a number 10, or even with his dribble. Shake his man. I mean, I'm not advocating for Magee, but as how I see Magee could beat his man, right? Or make the pass. I'm not advocating for Magee because he's not doing what needs to be done to get on the team. I'm just making a point. So outside of Ravel, I hear the guy's name who you guys call, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to offer. But I don't see that we have and again, I'm not knocking the two guys we have because they do a job what the coach put them to do. If you're not capable, you can't knock them. You're just not that kind of player. But I don't see that we have the guy to play except Ravel really. And if Magee was to be doing what he is supposed to do, he has the skill set. I don't see any other players that we have to play that number 10 position.
So we had Andre answer the question about being the coach and what's needed. We had somewhat of AQ also answering. Carlton, your perspective. If you were the coach for the Reggae Boys, given what you saw during the Gold Cup and what you think and the competition we have in the region and what we need going forward, what do you think that is it that we need, and what would you do if you were the coach?
First thing, if I was the coach, I would tell the administration must speed up these players that themselves can play for Jamaica real fast and quickly. And I think the guys they should take a leaf out from Captain Burrell's book, because I don't know the reason why Reece Nelson papers don't look about as yet. Because it's so simple. All the JFF should do, if they're going to do, is go and fly these players to Jamaica with all the document they have and look about, and everything look about in Jamaica, that they can get it, and then can talk to the English FA after from them get it. Because if they look about it here, it have to come to Jamaica and come back here. So all that is foolishness taking so long. So
I'm assuming you're in the UK. I'm assuming you're in the UK, Carlton?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all that is just foolishness. What's going on? It's simple. If it's 10 players you have, you can't tell me said some of these players will willing to buy their own ticket if they want and come down and start it out. Just come down with their document that it correspond with everything. That's is as long as no problem is on it. It start out 1-2. So I don't see all these issue what's going on. Said this taking this time, that's taking that time, and it's so simple. It's very simple. So, and I don't know what's going around, but for me, I would need to see. And for me, what I would do, I would call up. It's like the 60-man camp. I would try get all of them together, and see them. I'll get all of them who I call in the squad. It don't make sense. I'm going to call somebody and don't see them. I would have a camp with them. You see something like what Simoes did done. I would done the same thing. Call all those players and have those group of players and watch them over a period of time, like when they are on holiday. Just call all of them and work and see them, and then I can see them, because some players that they call, as I said to you, definitely for me, I don't see the reason why Daniel Green not in the squad, because I know you done better than what some of these guys done.
Right.
But
So, yeah, go ahead, Carlton. Sorry. Go ahead.
so these things is what I would do, what I would do, because look about this thing. Get also some of the players in Jamaica playing the National League, put them in the group and see them with the guys, because when you play with good player, you only can get better and you only will look better. That's why you see when some person complaining and maybe they expect too much from Lane Bailey, because when you're playing with players that's good, they can make you look better than what you are. You understand?
Okay. Yeah, got you. Here's a point I want to make,
Yeah.
guys. So we talk about a lot of players, but a lot of players that we have been sourcing sort of play in the more front. If we talk about Damari Gray, Bailey, Reese Nelson, we seem to have a lot of wingers in the team who are very, very good players, but we don't seem to be able to point out any midfielders to date, frankly. I know we talk about Hayden, I know we talk about Lewis Baker, who I call Premier League players in that position. So here's my question to you. I've suggested this, and Andre, you're part of this conversation, which is, should we be considering converting some of those wingers to, say, a midfielder, like a 10, for example? Because I know some people believe when you play a wing, that's what you do. But I point to examples of Iwobi, Joey Linton, even Dwight McNeil, for example, who have become midfielders, not by design, but because their team was in some kind of situation where they had to use them in emergency, and they become regulars in that situation. There's a Damari Gray, for example, who has played center forward and who we saw made a pass to Amari Bell. Doesn't he has the capability to transition to a 10 versus being stuck on the wing? Because we're forcing in those 4 players to play because they're the best players. But as some have alluded to, one maybe needs to sit on the bench because the team is not well balanced. I'm going to start with you first, AQ, then go to Marlon, then to Andre.
You know, it's funny that you said that, because me and my friends had this discussion about who was best. Initially, before Gray came in the team, we were saying, when you look at the left footer from Arsenal and quite a few of the Europeans that play in smaller for smaller countries, they play the 10 for their country when they play, whether they play wing back, winger, because they're playing for big clubs in Europe. They adjust and they're the best player and they play that creative position for their country. So I thought Leon Bailey would have been able to do that for us, but after seeing him play for quite a while, it seems he don't really have that skill set for whatever reason, or he just can't do it. On to the next option. After seeing Gray, we really came to the come to the conclusion that Gray really should be able to do it. And based on all that we have seen, it seems that he has all the tools necessary to play that position. Whether it's playing with his back, whether it's making the pass, the shaking off his players, everything I've seen from him really says that of everybody we have seen, he should really, as you just pointed out, he should really be the ideal player if we can't find anyone to play in that position. So I really agree with that with that theory of trying Gray there, because short of him, we don't have anyone and we actually need someone. And he seems the best fit.
Marlon, and then Andre.
If you're looking, as I said, Gray has the ability, because the 21-22 season, he was actually playing in the attacking midfield role for Arsenal, right? For Everton. So basically, he can do it. I think Omari Hutchison, as a youngster, he has the tool to play in that position as well. KC Palmer, hopefully if he can get fit and up and running, he has the tool to play there well. But he's more a ball carrier. He give you that true pass. Yes, but he's a person who's gonna take the ball and run at you. So I think what the player out there, and I said it a couple of times, if we get him, it will be a goal for Jamaica, Morgan Gibbs White. I think he's a hard player to get, but if we get that player, he's the one that can really elevate Jamaica team to another level. So I think he has the quality there. The next person, I think Ravel, if he finds a club and start playing regular, he could be the person to really control the midfield for us.
Okay. Andre, your view on that, whether or not you believe in the theory of converting, because nowadays we have very versatile player. I think AQ talked about Zinchenko, who plays left back for Arsenal but plays midfield for his country. Your view on Jamaica converting some of those players with exceptional capability, but we may have too many of them out wide, and if we don't bench them, then how do they fit into the team?
It would be, and Kronke, something has changed with the layout for some reason. If I'm not
I know
mistaken.
this, but I don't know how to control it. So I know this the layout change.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, I saw that.
Yeah, it came back actually.
Yeah. So look, sometimes you may have all of that quality, and to have a team that functions properly, you wouldn't be able to play all of them. So the question, and I know you asked it earlier, and I didn't go that far into the question, but I said to a friend of mine who's Jamaican for the final game that I would not have played all of those guys. I would have put an extra midfielder into the middle of the pitch to make it a little more difficult for Mexico in that area of the pitch, and which means that I remove one of the guys from up front. But I think football is always a difficult discussion. Let me ask you guys, how do you think Jamaica should play without the ball? Should Jamaica defend actively, or should Jamaica defend passively? Meaning, should Jamaica press teams all around the pitch like Arsenal does and like Man City does and any of those top teams, Barcelona, or should Jamaica defend passively, sit in and allow the opponent to have possession and try to win the ball there and play in counter-attack, or should Jamaica try to control the game by controlling possession of the ball based on the quality that Jamaica has? How do you all think they should play?
Let's start with Katarock first.
I'll leave that question to the football minds. When we come back to the fan experience, I'll jump back.
Okay. Let's go to AQ. Let's go to AQ.
I'm a football aficionado, brother. I'm mad head.
No, Katarock, that's fair, Katarock. Let's go to AQ. I have a view on that, but let's go AQ.
All right. So, it's a combination of the two, right? Obviously, you can't press them fully for the entire game.
Right.
But if I was to say percentage-wise, when we don't have the ball, I would say maybe a 70% mid-block.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You start at a half line, and the next 30% in spots where you have somebody on the field, whoever the general is, whoever the captain is on the field, to call out, and then you pick your spots and you press them fully up the field and try to win the ball high. So maybe like a 70-30.
Right.
As far as but you also asked if we were going to with regards to possessing the ball and holding the ball.
Going to play in possession, or you're going to counter?
Yeah, we don't have the manpower. We don't have the personnel. Sorry, to play possession football over Mexico, US, Panama. I'll point out two specific things that happened. I don't know if I told this to Katarock, but if we watch the tournament, right? I said earlier, go down the middle. The final, even the goalkeeper for Panama, when he came out on top of the box, in the midst of all the crowd, he played the ball directly on the ground, down the center of the field at half line to the forward, and he was able to lay it off, and they start the attack. We don't play any of those passes. I specifically look for those things. Against the US, we didn't play one. Well, we played one where it was a interception by Lambert, and it was the only pass he had, one touch to the forward, Antonio. None of our guys play those balls 20 yards on the ground into the forwards. The best, the person who does that best for us or does it the most is Low. Or I saw the other centre back do it a few times. Attempted to the Englishman. I forget his name. Yes. We have to have players who could make those passes and control and turn with the ball in order to play in possession. We don't have them. So we cannot play possession football with the manpower, with the personnel that we have right now. Specifically the two midfielders.
I think your system and style of play determines whether you play pressing game or possession football. So what do I mean by that? A couple of things. One is you rest on offense when you play pressing football. You don't rest on you rest on offense. So if you can't keep the ball, that makes sense you press. It's going to run itself into the ground all day, right? And look at most teams. Most teams that play counter-attacking football don't play pressing football because when they win the ball, their position got to be farther on the field so they can get at them. Like Mexico got at on that free kick they got at us, similar concept. So I don't think you can play press. If you play pressing football also, your two center halves have to be able to cover a lot of ground. If you're going to really press holistically, that means I'm going gung-ho, close off every gap. Every player has to play a role. And your two center half have to be very, very mobile and comfortable when they get the ball and be able to play their man for man. Most coaches cannot get comfortable with that. I can't isolate my center half on the best forward, like you see with Arsenal against playing against what's his name, Haaland. You get bad results when that happens. So the offense and defense have to be aligned. They can't be mutually exclusive. And for Jamaica, as AQ mentioned, if you can't keep the ball, should you really press high up? So when you win it, you can't do much with it. And when you don't have it, you're going to be stretched and be challenged if the ball beats the first line of defense. Marlon, your perspective.
Yeah, I think person might compare us and Panama, right? The Panamanians, three center backs, they are very comfortable with the ball and they're playing a back three. So that allows the front three to high press, right? What happened now when if the team they're playing again beat that high press, right? If you notice, one of the midfielders come across, Carey will be the one who come to do the mid press. So what they do, you basically have a Gadai who he hardly goes in the press. He's the one that will be in the middle. If they lose the ball, he can win it back and send it to the wing back fast. So if we're not comfortable with the ball, we cannot really go a high press team, especially we can high press team that we are superior to. But if you're gonna play a Panama, Mexico, or Costa Rica who are good at the ball and Canada and US, it's not gonna work. Right? Because when person was saying that we should high press Mexico, I said, how we can high press Mexico when Mexico master the pressing system. Right? Because all their players, they're technical with the ball. So they are comfortable play with the ball. So when we learn how to keep position with the ball, if we have the ball play midfield, then we can improve on the pressing system. And we have to have two good center back. Pinnock is not there. Pinnock is one person good, but we need two more center back who are the same level with Pinnock, can play in out of the press same way. So that way we can high press a team right out. But for now, still, for me as a coach, if I was coaching the team right now, I'd have used them in a medium press. So you basically have your midfielders there. If they basically play out of the front press, the midfield is there to basically block off the pass and intercept.
Right. Now, makes a lot of sense, actually. Any other perspective, Andre or Carlton?
Yeah, no, only thing I have to say is the first thing I see with my team, what I would do is teach my defense them to control the ball and know how to look up and make proper passes, because it's not just kick like you're nervous, you're holding hot egg in your hand. Because we make the defense, they make some passes sometimes. I really wonder what they're doing. They're passing the ball to the guys from the other team. So I just say we need to teach them first thing to control. They can look up and make proper passes, accurate passes. That's what I see the first thing we have to deal with. Make accurate pass and just don't kick like it's at egg we're kicking at. That's the only thing I have to say.
So I want to answer a different question, and then I know Kronke is we are asking questions from two different perspectives.
Yeah, I have to run soon, Katarock, so you can run the stream. I do have to run in 5 minutes. I got a pack for my trip. So
but let me say this.
Before you run, I want to say something to you, Kronke. We're after Katarock.
Go ahead,
Okay.
go ahead, man. Go ahead, Carlton.
No, Kronke, you did ask a question earlier on before, because this is coming up. When you was asking about just want to change the topic for a bit. When you was asking about the athletics and the guy that run the 4403.
Yes.
Because the World Championship is next month, and it's Jamaica we're talking about still. And it's sports. So you was asking about that. I think it would be unfair for them to put that guy in the final, because it is unfair to those guys who qualify and they're changing so hard for a contract to go to that World Championship that their life can better. And because me running this time now, you're gonna bend the rule and put them and what I'm remember what I'm to Peter Gay Dowdy and Merlin Natty. We don't want a same scenario.
So those of you in the audience, and we didn't want to digress into this, but Carlton brought it up because I'm running. The point was this: we have a 400-meter runner who has a time which is the third best in the world, but didn't make the final after 400 meters. I didn't make the top 3 in the trials. And my question was, should we adhere to the rules in place, which saying you don't finish the top 3, you don't go to the World Championship in the individual event, or should we change it to say this person has a chance to medal, and therefore we should make some allowances for the runner? I don't want to get into the that was the point, which is, do you subscribe and adhere to your rule and execute your rule, or do you change it to satisfy the situation that occurred, which is this runner didn't make the semifinal because of a small injury, and therefore is deemed to be in your top 3, but didn't make the top 3? That was the question. So he just answered the question.
And as a public service announcement, if you wish to talk track, there's coach's desk.
Gentlemen, I have to run myself.
I do have to run. Katarock will close out the stream and run the stream for the when I do have to run. I'll say this before I go though. AQ, welcome you on the program anytime. Carlton, Marlon, obviously Andre and Katarock are regular. AQ, brilliant, and Marlon, always the same. Marlon, your knowledge of CONCACAF is exceptional. Frankly, I don't know how we have time to follow all these players and what they do, but we do appreciate your knowledge. And Carlton, thanks for the first time. You're in the UK. Maybe you can help us recruit some of those players that we allude to. Thanks, everyone, guys. It's been great being here. Great conversation. Sorry, go ahead.
We want us to help him to recruit Mason Greenwood. Don't give him a That's it.
We also want some midfielders. So, everyone, thank you. I appreciate joining us. As Katarock mentioned before, Katarock's going to close out the stream, but please hit the like button so others can watch the stream. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And take care, Kronke. Marlon, you are put in charge of ensuring that Katarock
I'm going to
leave the channel still existing tomorrow. So make sure that Katarock don't get carried away. So you can pull him back to the center, Marlon, if you think he's going in the wrong direction. Okay.
No, man, not pull me. I've done this before. I've got this. Right.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. All
right.
So, AQ, I have to say this now.
Okay, you guys be good, okay?
Andre.
I'm putting you on the spot. I love your football reasoning and acumen, but the amount of waters we drink out in Chicago, they don't have them start a football acumen there, bro. Because and I want to take us, because it's a fun thing, right? Yeah, man, we're there at Park. I really want to give people the experience of being a Reggae Boys fan in a big tournament. And then we can come back to who should play and who should think, because the show is supposed to be kind of different. So AQ, can you just share a perspective from, we went in, it was D1 car park in Chicago, to walking in that stadium, what the feeling was like. Take it away.
It was D4. I think you
D4. No, me have to park at D1 and walk on D4.
Yeah.
That's hard to do after a few whites.
So we were supposed to meet up outside of the stadium and all go in the same time. but you know we're unruly, and some people don't take the instructions properly. So some people, so my friend went ahead. Well, it was just miscommunication. So we ended up being in D4, but I didn't even realize how close they were. It wasn't that far. So we ended up meeting together, and it was I forgot to say this, although I was bashing us for not turning out in Guatemala, but we had it was a nice little vibe in Chicago in the parking lot. We maybe it could have been better, but it was still a good turnout. We had a chef, a whole bunch of people playing games, the music in Chicago. It was really, really good. It was really good, man. The experience was great in Chicago from a fan perspective. I omitted to address that. I almost forgot for a while to how I was mad about Guatemala, but Chicago was really good. Obviously, could always get better, but we got there probably about 2.5 hours before the game. Link up with Katarock and Neo and his son and was it Carey and a few others. And I'm telling you, yeah, man, it was
Kyle. Also
so,
big up Kyle from Reggae Boy
yeah,
Supporters.
it was really good. The food. I have some pictures with them. Everybody was sharing. You want some food, you want some drink, you just stop by a car, you don't know nobody, go over there, get yourself something to eat, some jerk chicken, some fish, whatever, rice and peas. No, it was callaloo rice.
Callaloo rice.
Yeah,
The callaloo rice, bad people, man.
yeah,
I tell you.
man. Bad.
Callaloo rice, bad.
Yeah, man. So
Where did you get that callaloo there from?
the Chicago experience. Shout out to the callaloo rice if you're watching it. The chef will give the callaloo rice and the jerk chicken and the thing. Yeah, man. Proper. Over there. Them did it over D1.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And it lay out, you know, like about 20 meters, 10, 20 meters long of food, you know.
Yeah,
and
man.
Even to that, you could have just walk up to any vehicle with your cup.
Yeah,
and
man.
You didn't have to ask, man, just a pour a drink, a
Yeah,
juice,
man.
if you want
Yeah.
ice. Anything. Jamaicans were just living, loving.
Yeah, man, it was good.
Big up the twins, them, the dancer, them, the twin dancer, them. Yeah.
Right before we enter the stadium.
Right before we enter the stadium, a Jamaican girl had to start broke out.
You are, guys.
Start broke out, man. Go up and head top on these things.
Katarock and Marlon and Brett and Bex Virgin, me are run, you know.
Yeah, run. So yeah, call Mason right away.
Yeah, man. On the weekend, me go cross him with, me go cross them side if them come down. Because youth born now, you know, so just one of them things there. See the incident will get him in a trouble.
Catch it before him go to Italy.
Eh?
Get up with him before him go. He reaches to Italy, to Atalanta.
Yeah, man. All right, so we'll tomorrow. Me link on the back up. So we take it easy, Marlon and Virginia. Yeah, with your Katarock.
Yeah,
all right.
And the last thing before we get back to the thing, go ahead.
Going into the stadium. By the time it was finished, also it was the first game, so you know there was a whole heap of anticipation. The first time we ever see Grey play. So the big four up front. We couldn't wait. We were eager walking into the stadium, getting to see this team that Hal Grimson was putting together after the two practice games. It was we really felt it was really a time of great enthusiasm and excitement and anticipation. And I must say that it was a big party of us, and we really enjoyed that that 2 hours prior to the Chicago game, and just the whole fanfare walking into Soldier Field and getting ready for the first game against USA. It was magical.
And really, let me tell you, people, Soldier Field is the home of the Chicago Bears, and I've never been there, stepped in there for the first time, and I want to take something when they're looking to develop our stadium. The history. When you walked in the place, I don't really watch American football, but they had to take some picture with some of the statues and the murals and the it's not only murals, the information about these great players who played for the Chicago Bears. It was really what you would call like a temple for them. And I hope that when we redevelop the National Stadium, our sportsmen and sportswomen are given that pride of place in the structure. Not only a statue, but really what you have done. Because it took me about half an hour to go to my seat because I just read this man him hold the ball. I don't know if there's a famous black guy. I'm not sure if is it it was really surreal. But when you stepped into the stadium and that phrase that says to you, Jamaica will liquor but with talawa. And there was all these red and white shirts and whatever. And 2 pockets of yellow. Section 231 where we did that. Couple man dead down at the bottom and at the base near the field. Sorry. And then over behind the goal. But the whole vibe, something that hit me in the parking lot, and I want to say this to Jamaicans. I don't think we understand how we impact the world. So a lot of the USA fans are actually Hispanic, right? I would say about 50% of the fans that I saw in Chicago, and Marlon, you have been to other games, you can tell me this remains there. They're really Hispanic people who really, and Latin Americans who love football. But even though we were playing our dance hall, when you pass many of the cars that had the sound on, it was Bob Marley, it was Shaggy, it was Tanta Metra and Devante. So you couldn't even tell that it was the reggae music was just everywhere by people embracing our culture. And I think I would hope for us to try and leverage that some more wherever we go. And the biggest noise in the stadium was when Bob Marley, One Love, touched on the speaker. No little top 10 song or song with 1 billion views couldn't match the noise that you heard when the Bob dropped out of them speaker there in Chicago. Marlon, tell us if that's the same for the games that you have been to in the past. I know you weren't able to come to this tournament.
Yeah, man. It's as we know that the Hispanic, when it comes to El Salvador and Guatemala, and not even gonna mention Mexico, they have a very big following. And as I always tell the person that in Central America, football is a culture down there, right? So you like Honduras on this place, you might find marathon playing Olympia, and the stadium is gonna be full, right? So it'll be like a classical Waterhouse and Arnett Valley game. Everybody will come out, right? Costa Rica, same way, Saprissa and Alajuelense playing, the stadium is gonna be full. And these are the 2 big teams, so for their support is gonna be there, right? Because as I was saying to somebody that if Mexico is playing Guatemala, it's really a clash. And Guatemala and Mexico, El Salvador, these same play. They are Honduras. These are they call it the Central American play against the North American kingpin, right? And we know because the border El Salvador and Guatemala to Mexico, so they don't, when it comes to football, they don't basically have the best relationship. So it's always a clash. So I would say somebody if you're looking at Mexico play El Salvador or Guatemala, the number of person in the stadium, it's gonna be split. Because it's basically be a derby game for them, right? So both of them will be coming out. But so going to games overseas and stuff, the atmosphere is always there. As I said, the one love and it's One Love and Three Little Birds. Those 2 songs are international anthems. Where anywhere you go in the world, you're gonna hear them. If you go anywhere you mentioned Jamaica, you're gonna hear One Love, right? First thing we say to you, Bob Marley, One Love. Anywhere you go, Asia, Europe, same way. You find that South America, same way. Even down in Oceania, right? But as I Katarock said, as I say, you're 2 of the games, so you basically in it, right? And being up here against US again, right? For a couple Jamaicans, right? A handful of Jamaicans, not even a handful, to be up there against right? I know what some army is like already, right? And they're one of the biggest. They're one of the biggest supporter group of American football, right?
And they seem to have another group now in the Marland called the American Outlaws. So they take up both sides behind the goal.
Those are the Texans.
Those are the Texans. So there's a different group. So there's Sam's Army behind one goal and American Outlaws behind the other goal.
Man, those are the ones who want to beat London Donovan and Alexi Lalas. Those are the man that don't take anything because they're the one who said that. Yeah, they have a YouTube channel they run to. They said the whole team, the whole American team must go except for the goalkeeper, Matt Turner.
Matt Turner.
Matt Turner alone can stay. The rest of them can go.
Right. But
they basically believe in their best 23 players, right?
Okay.
That's how they look at it. They don't think about giving players opportunity. They want to see their best 23 players in the squad at all times. So that's why they're the Outlaws. They demand for their best players. So
I didn't know it. It was my first time meeting up with them. And to be fair, let me say this: I mean, apart from some beard man dash away and like a words of thing, but for the most part, I think what happened on the field kept them in check.
Them quiet,
right? But I also want to say, and I want to ask.
When Kobe Jones was saying that he was like, there's 500 Jamaicans and they're making more nice than the Americans, right? That's a former player, Kobe Jones. So I was laughing.
Yeah. The Ras, he's still a Ras.
Yeah, really trim now. Yeah, but that's still and it shows it. It shows as I said, little of so it shows you something that the small numbers are there, but you can still make a sound series and the players they feel off it.
Right. And what was important to me though, Marlon, is that I didn't hear the usual thing that I heard, and I'm gonna try and reinforce that when we go in at the bleachers in the stadium. We never hear nobody accost the player them. I mean, yes, some people were disappointed and stuff, but that constant cussing at the player them, it wasn't there. Even though we know that we were under the cosh because we were the away team and America were trying desperately not to lose. And I see Mikhail here saying, you know these people in Marland, I know the Voyagers. I thought the Canadians were called the Red Patch Boys. If somebody can, anybody from Canada can tell me, because the only people that I have come up against is the Red Patch Boys. A lot of whom are English descent who have migrated to Canada. Anybody from Canada can tell us about the Voyagers and the Red Patch Boys? Marlon, go ahead.
No, I know that most of the Canada, one of the biggest Canada, I don't even remember their name. I saw them in Halifax once. But most of them are basically Scottish descendant and Irish and English that come over. So they follow the Canadian team.
Yeah. So we're talking the fan perspective now. We're gonna shut off at 8 p.m. Jamaica time. We have Marlon, the walking encyclopedia from Kronke. Joaquim Guzman says the Voyagers. Mikhail is in Toronto. Big up T-Dot. The whole 6. The final question on the whole thing. There were a couple of low points for me. It really, really got to me. Thank you, Owen. Thing, right? When the team would finish playing, and I would hear, I know a couple of man of your friends, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Someone, I don't know if them just, I call them the sofa score analyst. You can't just read stats and analyze the thing back, bro. Because I heard someone saying to me that St. Kitts was giving Jamaica a hard time. And St. Kitts was not in the game at any point in time whatsoever. What we have to do is understand that nobody is going to roll over and die and hand you the game.
At the same time, remember that we made 6 changes. There were 6 changes in the team, so
Yes.
you're playing people finding their feet, and I understand that. Sankis made changes as well. So they're personal getting their first game, and they want to go there. They don't want to go there and get embarrassed. And I think, and I said to several persons, I said the main factor of that game was the weather, right? Because both games have to play at the same time, right? 4 o'clock on the West Coast and 4 o'clock on the East Coast is two different weather, right? Both games started at the same time, right? It was what 4 o'clock on the East Coast, and it was 7 o'clock on 4 o'clock on the West Coast and 7 o'clock on the East Coast.
Yes, 3 hours. 3 hours time difference.
So basically, the weather was basically against Jamaica for as I said, most of the players they're playing in this type of weather for the first time, because regardless being in England or in English summer you don't find that high humidity, right? Most of the summer you get rain, so it basically like a 50-50 thing. When you touch in America in the summer in mid-July going to August, right? Vegas, California, Texas, Dallas, these places, right? Midwest, and the weather is totally different, right? We are here in Jamaica, and we are basically crying about 97, 98 degrees. These places are 110, 112. So I think for me that was the first thing I saw, because when they took the first water break at Katarock, I realized that you could see that the Mara grade getting the cold towel and stuff to really cool down and stuff. But after that water break, you realize it's a different team out there. The goal they came, right, and they took over the game completely from there. But at the same time, players were trying for the same case. Guess what? We don't want to get 6 again from Jamaica like we get from US, right? And personally, we are playing their first game, right? They want to showcase their talent, and we are giving person their first game as well, right? We had Russell starting, we had Paris starting at the same time. So I think the 6 changes we made, that basically we didn't start off on the fast foot that we
fluently. Yeah, we didn't start fluently as people were trying to get their feet together, playing together.
But after that water break, have you realized after that water break, the game was totally different?
Right. But I want to say the heat was a problem, because I was in California. As I said, I didn't make it up to the game. And man, just can't laugh after me, because I do really did something there, where a man said to the game in California, me booked my ticket to LAX. And when me I tell the man to book the car, and the man I say a 6-hour drive. And I say 6 hours, but something not 200. And because it was July 4th, I could not get any flight out to San Jose or San Francisco. They were booked solid. But I enjoyed that game in a Mexican bar. And what I want to say to you is, the Mexicans, their love for football, I've heard you say this before, Marlon. The footballing culture, it's like a religion. They were there drinking from the Jamaica. They were just all out, right? But their love and appreciation for the football game, respect Pagan. I'm glad I experienced that. I wouldn't give it up to go into the stadium. I'd love to be in the stadium for St. Kitts, but they also know our players, right? They're aware of Damari Gray. Well, the number one, they're aware of Michael Antonio. They were saying that he's going to be a problem. Cabron, he's going to be a problem. I know that thing, when the thing busted their head, but I believe, and I want to ask you a footballing question. I know we gave players. How would you assess 2 players who that was the only game they played? I want to start with Kanaya Boyce Clark, who got, I think, 10 or 20 minutes in the goal.
I think, 12 minutes.
How did you assess Kanaya Boyce Clark? How would you assess Kahim Paris?
Well, I think when Kanai coming out, because you know, it's a young player that I rate highly from under 20 coming up, right? And I said that he's gonna be one of our future captain, right? I think you could see the nerves, the first time he touched the ball, right? But you saw Maps was communicate with him as a leader on the field. Then he calmed down. He came out of the 18 box to make an interception, and he passed the ball comfortable. He didn't look like he was nervous or anything. Would have came out and just clear the ball and run back in the goal. Came make the pass and stuff. Paris performance was okay, but a lot of persons said Paris was losing the ball and wasn't making a cross or anything. But I said it. None of our wingers crossed the ball except Bobby Reed. We crossed it, right?
That's a common fact, and I'm going to ask you, when you finish this question, I'm going to ask you about our crossing ability. But go ahead on your assessment of the players.
Yes.
Who...
So, the thing I have one issue with him. There are times when we were on the break fast, right? But I think because Mikel was coming back in the middle most of the time to get the ball, because the St. Kitts defenders were sticking very close to him. They were very close to him most of the time. So he was coming in like to pull them in the middle, and for them are great to really come in off a channel, right? So he was basically stopping the ball and holding up, looking for the pass instead of going on the fast break in transition. But the crossing ability, it's I think as a player, I think Javier Brown, I think the Guatemala game, you saw he was trying to put them in the box, right? I think Amarabel might have a couple crosses as well, but the crossing was poor. But at the same time, even the Mexican game, I think Mikel Antonio have 2 or 3 crosses here. But when he's crossing the ball, it's Liam Bailey up against Montes, who is 6'5". So he's not even gonna. So as I said, I think the formation and the system, we have to really work on that, because if we're gonna put in cross in the box and we don't have Mikel Antonio in the box to go for that header, there's no sense in it. He's not afraid of it. You're basically going for a contested header with a defender, and if you don't have somebody who's physical and good in the air, it won't work out. So I think that's one point of the game. The coaching staff have to really work on the players and stuff.
And so how do we get this crossing? Is it that we need? Is that one of the reasons why I know you're very excited about the prospect of Reese Nelson coming to Jamaica? And there was a discussion before, and I want to just spend a couple of minutes. We only have about 8 minutes left. Do we need to? We have wingers, but they are wingers and they are wingers. The wingers that we have now, like Demarai, have the ability to beat players, but they're not the greatest crossers of the football. So, for example, in Everton, Demarai sits on the bench to Dwight McNeil, who is one of the most accurate crossers of the football. Rico Henry is another very accurate crosser of the football. Jaden Anthony is not that bad when it comes. But is that why you're excited about Reese Nelson?
Well, as I said, I take the way. I think Anthony he will relish having played with a McNeil, because we know what when McNeil go down, cutting in is basically going for that square. And I think that's one of the reason why when Calvert-Lewin got fit, Demarai Gray was on the bench. He was basically playing more as a striker. He was playing most of the game. He was playing as a forward, as the both strikers were all injured. So, what I said, Nelson brings something else to the game. He comes to the table with a different player. He's a player, as I said. He and Morgan Gibbs White. I think these two. As I said, I would love to see Morgan Gibbs White here, but I still see him holding up for England. But I think if over the next year, if he doesn't get to make his debut for England, I think it's a possibility we can get him. But Reece is a different type of player. Good dribbling. He can drive through the middle. Good passer. He can square the ball, and he has some he can kick them from outside the 18 box as well. McNeil, as I said, he's a player. If the coach get that player, I see Demarai Gray playing as an attacking midfielder, because he's good in offense and he's good in defense as well. So I think
No. And I know that we have some problem areas and stuff, and that's why I didn't want to rehash that argument. But I'm glad you have said it, that Reese Nelson presents a different prospect. And what I think, for example, with Boza, with Corey Burke, and with Mikel Antonio, we are using the same tool to try and unlock the defense. We don't have a different look to give them, like a smaller, tricky forward, or somebody with searing pace like a CFS. And so, but we all know that, but he had 27, Joaquin, because my boy Calvert-Lewin was injured and he was playing number 9. Much of those 27 starts, he was the number 9 forward, right? But at club level, Demarai Gray is not a great goal scorer. He doesn't score very many goals. He's a scorer of great goals. I mean, they're lovely to watch, but they come along like the English bus, you know. You sit and you wait for one, and then 2 come at the same time. Carter, they join us back, Soji. You unmute. I had muted you before. Your teacup was given a little noise.
Yeah. What the problem between Yamal and with Reese Nelson, that's big, that's him not really the funny team as yet. Yeah, you hear me, Katarock?
Yeah, Coach, go on.
Your phone is sounding low. You have to turn up the volume. He's asking what's the problem with Reese Nelson, why he's not. Is it in Jamaica team or Arsenal?
Not Arsenal, Jamaica team, man. Why?
I think the time to get the passport was insufficient, and the coach had given a cutoff date. That's my understanding, that after this date, he just worked with who he has. But Reese Nelson's mother, I understand, is Jamaican, so it's not like he's going digging up for documents in a trunk for granny or grandpa.
No, but like I said this to you, when Manning's man called me and asked me, and I go check, I'm the one that's go to Reese Nelson himself and call Manning's man and make him talk to Manning's man and the coach talk to him at the same time, and him tell Manning's man, tell them say in 100% committed to play for Jamaica, you know. And me say, see the ball in the phone hand, me done with it now, you know. So what I think
you shouldn't done with it. You need to see it through to the end, Soji.
No, but me go and see that. But what I'm saying to you, what should happen? All me say, Katarock, if we agree with me, say the JFF then could man a one plane ticket to Jamaica, you know, and then come down with the mother papers and everything, sign up and so forth, and then go to a birth paper office and get through with it, you know. And a rocket science, like where man, they might make it look like a rocket science. Because film do it from, you know, Marlon, film do it from England, and it take longer, you know.
Marlon, so is that the number one player you'd be looking for? And I think we're coming to the end, a couple more minutes. So that allow the man to wrap up. Marlon, what's your final word on the fan experience watching it from a televised view? Carlton watching it from, I understand, say you come at New York and you can't, you just ask. All you have to do is just walk out to the Brooklyn and say, yo, somebody link me up with Katarock, man. Man, thing large, you know.
Katarock, okay.
Melahan straight.
Katarock, me not really know in a New York that good like how you say just walk out in a Brooklyn and anything. When me come at JF Kennedy, you know, and so forth, and when me come, you know, and me come down at the place because you have so many different lines, and then when they realize, they say, like when I go to Jamaica, me tell them and me drop me bag where Delta is, and they say me can do what me have to do. Because when you're there in the place, so me in there at the time, you know, at that time when at the morning where you say you're inside there, you know. Me at the airport that time, you know.
Why? Yeah, it was a little busy time, but yeah.
Yeah, me send every information to Manning's man get back to me, because only Manning's man number me did have. So me send everything.
Manning's man need to get some data upon service and not depend on the people in Wi-Fi within their road.
So that maybe if me did link, if me see you Katarock and so me and you then drive from there, so
Don't me drive, brother. Fly, daddy.
No,
Fly
no.
everywhere.
No, so you fly from New York to Chicago. Okay.
But
okay.
I mean, you would have to get the morning flight because those flights were full. But I'm just saying to you that Neo drove, so you could have drive with Neo Sovereign, and I had Neo's number. You know,
no, but we can fly to you now. Me not have a problem. Me not have a problem, because me know me then come back and catch a plane the next day. So it's as simple. To catch a plane to Jamaica the next day. So that become I come down for trial. So me decide to I come New York, get a flight from New York. Me not look a flight to Chicago itself, but me couldn't get one. So me come and get one to, and when I get one to Chicago, then I would do that. I need to do easier.
So as we wrap up, Marlon, your last views as a fan, from a fan perspective, watching those 5 games.
Yeah, as I said, it was a good look. As I said, I think from a successful standpoint, I think the whole competition overall, we see where all the teams are improving in CONCACAF, right? Not only the big boys. You saw St. Kitts made their debut. We saw Martinique dispatch of El Salvador. Guadeloupe had a hard-fought game with Guatemala, I think, which everybody wanted them to win, being a Caribbean team, right? I was disappointed with the Cuba team because what I saw they were working on before, I was expecting much more from them. But the teams that I had going through were there. Jamaica, Mexico were the favorite. It was whether with USA beat Panama, Panama beat USA, and basically as most of the persons are saying now, especially the outlaws, they are saying USA now cannot bring another B team or C team or bringing French players to play a competition because they want to win everything as supporters. So, but as I say for us still, we find a lot of pieces there. Still missing a few. The right back still have a concern same way. Javian Brown Javian Brown and Dexter, none of them have really cement that position. I think Dexter is more ahead of him now. That leave room for probably a young Ethan Laird. And that's what he does more in these 2 players. He's good in attack, and he will give you the crosses. He's gonna go down the flank and he will give you the crosses. So he's at Birmingham City now, so I think he'll be playing regular in the championship.
He's on loan or he's a transfer.
Transfer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, as I said, I think he's another young player that could be there same year. So as I said, I think Dexter did well. If his club was raving about his performance, for national team. So I think that experience, right, as they're now contemplating if they should send him out alone, and they actually around 11 or 12 teams trying to get his signature to come alone. I think there's 2 teams in Holland, 6 championship team, a couple League One team as well.
League One team. I know Port Vale. I'd heard Port Vale was trying to get him.
Yeah, but
that's not too far from the Midlands. But I hope he stays in the championship though.
Yeah, rather championship. I think once he can get the first team is playing regularly against. I said, and I think when person say Ochis is not with Chelsea, that's one thing Ochis wants. He wants guaranteed first team football, right? So going to the championship, right? I think West Brom was being mentioned. PSC was an option. It cool on, but I think with probably Xavi Simons going back to PSG, and I think that could be another option for him. I think if he goes to Holland and light up that league, playing in an attacking role, he could be one of the answers for our midfield as well. So I say still Dujan Whisper made history, youngest goal scorer ever in the Gold Cup. So I think that was another positive as well. As I said, and the good thing about the Katarock, all of our players they played, right? Whether it was 10 minutes or 15 minutes, all of our players played. And we were the only team to have all the players that played in the competition. So that was, as I say, exposure. I think they got exposure there. So as I said, going forward, still the coaching staff know what is missing and what they need to add, right? And once the players are there and the players are coming, the only thing about it, they'll be coming to make their debut in a competitive game against Honduras for the National League.
So there we have it, people. Thanks to Soji, thanks to Marlon. As I said, for me, it was a bit of a different Gold Cup. I enjoyed thoroughly meeting the fans, the ultras, the whole team Katarock family. The ultras, them will keep it jiggy, keep it supportive. I got to watch the game in 3 different environments. In a Mexican bar, in Los Angeles. I watched the St. Kitts game there, and I watched the Tracks and Records our exit in the semifinals. And I do want to call out the people, them, the wagonists, them, Brad, bro. We have to do better. You see where the game start, Marlon? Hall full, room full in the Tracks and Records. You couldn't find space. Man, stand up. You see, by the time the second goal score, brother, we could have laid down and spread out. And we really...
Katarock thing, as I said, for us, most of person who they just jump on the bandwagon and the team is doing good, right? And this is the difference when they come to the Central American teams. If the team is losing, they're in the stadium, right? I'll just say you're already with the Mexican watching the game. They're not going anywhere.
No. Even though they were 1-0 down against Qatar, they're not going nowhere.
All in their mind, they can come back. Right? They're not going anywhere. Right? And that's the difference with us, because I think our fans, they need to get in tune with the national team. Right? And that will bring back the big support back to the stadium. Because if you go to, for instance, you go to a game now and the team wins the next game, they draw. They don't remember the team win before now. They're gonna complain the draw, wishing to draw against this team. But at the same time, we have to remember that it's not 11 players playing the field, it's 22 players. Right? And when a man go there, right? And the thing about in sports, you can always plan for the superior team. Right? When a team is superior, the lower team can plan for them and say, guess what, we're gonna try to stop Anthony, we're gonna try to stop Bailey. This is what we're gonna do. When you're superior team, you're just expected to go there, right? And I think that's why a lot of persons were saying that we should have walk over Guatemala because we have a good record against Guatemala. But as I said, Guatemala was the second best supported team there, right? And their team has been together throughout the time that they had the FIFA ban, right? So they were basically building up everything there, playing squad game against each other, right? The last Gold Cup, we start seeing it. They came in a zone with Trinidad and Mexico, right? And they fought Mexico toe-to-toe, right? They're on the defense, but that's it is a border clash, right? They're basically fighting straight through, right? I think Mexico beat them 2-0 or 1-0 or something. But it shows you something, and I think our fans need to start develop that same culture. The same thing, sir. Because as I said, the National League will be there playing the whole season. Most persons don't go until playoffs start. So we have to really get into it as supporter. We support the team straight through when they're not doing good, right? And that's why I said, Katarock, I have to big up and respect up on that, right? I go to game, the team don't perform my curse them today, but get what? Next game, we're going to game. When we go Mobile and I lose to Trinidad, but I'll steal them the next game.
The next game, we don't. Win, lose, or draw. It's Reggae Boys for life.
Man, you Katarock a real fan, you know. Majority of Jamaican people, you know. You remember when Jamaica was winning, all the whole stadium full sellout. And then when they start to go down, nobody going out to watch them. So that's how Jamaicans are. And we have to stop that. What's funny is they would go to a Manchester United and they would go to an Arsenal or Tottenham game, or when they're losing, but they not do that for the national team.
And those in the States. So we have to call out the fans in the States. The next Gold Cup 2025, let us have a different thing, brother. Nearly 1 million Jamaicans living there. You must can find 20,000 away. For sure.
And this is the thing too. The Guatemala and the SRO, they have supporters group that buy ticket, right? Buy ticket for instance, Guatemala is playing in Miami. There's a person who there go designate himself go get the ticket. So who is coming from West Coast when they come down?
Them just pay a man hold a ticket.
Well, young Katarock can farm something like that, a supporters club, and
we have those things, you know. God, okay. But what happened is that I think we need the support of the JFF, because the JFF, I think, could advocate for a block of tickets in the stadium for the Jamaican fans and give us a time period up to, you know, and we purchase those tickets through the FA, through the JFF, right?
That's true.
I think that is what would work. But I have to run, gentlemen.
You know, you can't tell him to do that, Katarock.
By the team manager, that I think is more marketing. So the marketing people have to step up and do it. Big up Kyle Wallace. And Kyle and I, we traverse around the whole Chicago. The two are with us are roll. Park one car and save gas. You know what I mean? But I want to say to the USA though, you can't have people flying up and down in a global warming. It's not healthy for the environment. Them bag of flying thing. So let's have a more green tournament.
That's something that they need to do, because if you're playing one group, let the group play in one era. You can't have the people that travel up and down. Right? I think as I said in COVID it was much better. The team was based in one area, in one state. But if you're here from there,
we week out the thing. So, gentle people,
yes.
It's been here. It will be another day. We have given Soldier some work to lock down Mason Greenwood, but I'm going to give you another one because it's just so you want to write back. Kyle Walker Peters, sort it out this Soldier.
Walker Peters from where?
Southampton.
And I think he will come now because he's in the championship now.
When we get to this point of the show, Malaya wicked. You haven't seen anybody that.
Oh, I don't think it's gonna be like Max Evans to hold out.
But Max Evans is gonna have to have a come to Jesus moment, you know, because he's old. He has passed the age now. There's no more youth football for him. So, Maxi boy, do the right thing. People, when we get to this point in the show, this is I Am Sure Sports. We thank you for spending the last 2 hours and 45 minutes with Stan Kronke. Thank you for sharing the hosting duties with myself at the start of the program. You had to leave. We had Andre, the man from the TNT Republic, the Trinidad and Tobago Soca Warriors, who was here, and his appearance was as brief as his team's appearance in the Gold Cup. But we always welcome Andre. And we had the Walking Encyclopedia Marlon, Soji, best paper father, there with me. AQ, who I met on the road in Chicago and was in section 231 singing out loud with all of us enjoying the game. Welcome back and happy to have you join the program. Did I miss out anyone? I don't know, but thanks to panelists. Thanks for the man them in the chat. Kyle Wallace, Mikhail, the whole T-Dot, Toronto, Canada. Big up yourself, Santini, Lee, Young. Big up yourself, Owen, Cali Sinclair, Pagan. Big up the man with the wrench. Him to get along fresh blood. You know what I mean? I said, but big up yourself. Joaquin Guzman, remember you were giving us some comments. I remember J. Ross, Lulu, big up yourself. The whole of the W man, them. A.M. Henry, our good female there. We remember, I think it's about 4 days to go to the start of the Women's World Cup. And Dre, anyway, that come out of hiding. You and Marlon know the women's thing, you know. The women were successful. They had a 1-0 victory. I read Marlon.
And they beat Morocco 1-0.
Morocco 1-0.
I see Jody Brown is back around running again, so I think that's a positive for us.
Cool. So until we meet again, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And as we say, when we get to this point in the program, you know, it's over. I'm trying to find out how I end this thing, bro. Lord, here we go. But man, I give you one bag of something for end this stuff. Me have to end it my own way, yes. So we're over. And we are indeed OUT.
Boom, check it out. I don't know it's Jason. I may represent for I Am Sure Sports. For the latest news and updates, check out I Am Sure Sports. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel, subscribe and share. Jason representing I Am Sure. I Am Sure Sports.
Watch out, people. Watch out. Me get my jersey already. So you know it's like Ali Cup up. Ali Cup is not a Folly Cup. August 12 and 13, 137 Mountain View Avenue. You know it's an XL headquarters that. That one you go loud, it's a pro. So come bust the crowd and the cloud. Cause we got have fun. Yo, hear me now. If you now do the right thing, you are do the wrong thing. From you are do the wrong thing, you are going to get a spanking. Can't power with football, samba, now daily ranking. Chris, if you push the boy them off of the gully banking. Rise up in the morning, Father God, me have to thank him. Praise the most high before me get me there cranking. It's all about Ali Cup, August 12 and 13.
Boom, check it out. I don't know it's Jason. I may represent for I Am Sure Sports. For the latest news and updates, check out I Am Sure Sports. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel, subscribe and share. Jason representing I Am Sure. I Am Sure Sports.